Hey everybody, I'm Nico, and you guys can find me on Twitter and Instagram at NicoAction. That's NicoAction.
And I'm TK. You can find me on Twitter and Instagram at xNateXGrayX.
And as hard as it is to believe, we are here today for our 8th episode of MC2, where we're going to be taking a look at what are somehow the 12th, 13th, and 14th volumes of Spider-Girl, containing issues 67 through 85. But we're not going to stop there. No, we're going to stop off in Amazing Spider Family and throw in the sort of really odd Mayday bookend story that kind of Arana its way into that 104-page monolith. But I am having such a weird blast with you, TK, on this project, and it's unbelievable to think that we read Spider-Girl number 85 for this.
It's been quite the roller coaster ride. It's, a 2 steps forward, 2 steps back in quality kind of thing happening over these, especially these last few episodes and volumes, where for us it has been nothing but reading Spider-Girl. There is no break to, jump over to Rena the Wild Thing and have a little bit of fun, or go over to the Fantastic Five and just ruthlessly mock them. We are getting every inch of the Parker house. We are scrutinizing every class at the high school, and there are a lot of really cool things and a lot of really rough things.
And I think that is best reflected in the state of Spider-Girl at this point. Now, I'm probably more in love with Spider-Girl than ever as a member of her own universe. Like, I don't think she is to, MC2 what Spider-Man is to, the regular Marvel universe. I think she's a really valiant effort at something, and she's a really sweet character, but it's not just you and I who feel that way. By issue number 85, the sales have seen a bit of a tumble. Now, admittedly, from issue 67 to issue 85, which span from February of 2004 through June of 2005, the sales really only tumbled down from 21,400 to just about 19,600. Really, for a year and a half, losing about 1,500 readers, that's really not bad.
But of course, it's starting at a level where there's not really much room to lose at that point.
Yeah, okay, they are definitely starting at bad already. It's one of those things, like, this isn't like they're starting at great numbers. They are definitely starting at pretty questionable numbers to begin with.
And as we talked about before, this is clearly a core audience. We have not been able to identify the demographic, but there's clearly a group of people that is hanging in for this character. And I was really reflecting on that over these last 3 volumes, because when I think about it, when the MC2 starts, I'm still in middle school. And at this point in the MC2, I'm in my probably end of my freshman year, beginning of my sophomore year of college. I had personally, while not reading at the time, just reflecting on the fact that I was going through this huge transition. And there's ways in which I'm really seeing May go through a lot that I wish was reflected in things like the age of the character, because she's feeling really young at having just turned 16. And at the same time, I'm really enjoying a lot of the growth that we're seeing.
We've been working with May Parker in some fashion in terms of our in-universe discussion since February of 1998, and issue 85 sees us in June of 2005. That's like 7 years with this very specific vantage point into a familiar but strange universe. And I think this might have been the first time in a long time that, maybe I've just really immersion therapied myself into it, but the number of guest spots here, the amount of developed character, the people that I noticed were missing, the people that I was hoping would get some panel time, the surprise appearances, the background sort of, oh, right, that person kind of pop-ups. I feel like when this is all over, I'm no longer going to miss the MC2 in an academic way. I feel like I might just miss this line. I don't know that I'm going to miss any title. I don't know that I'm going to miss any plot, but I feel like I'm going to miss this line.
I think I'm going to miss the line a little bit, and I'm going to still be looking in the rear view at what might have have been, because I still see so much potential here, and I'm coming to accept that it's never really going to meet my expectations for it, not even in terms of quality, although sometimes that is lacking, but in terms of just seeing so many opportunities to, at this point, not even offer an alternative to the Marvel Universe, but something of a companion to it. Something that, while we accept that you can't be bogged down by continuity, you can have different continuity that reflects the state of the world that we see around us in a different way. And this book does that a lot of the time. We say the whole line, but at this point, it's just this book, and we'll pull in some other stuff from time to time, but we never got to see this fleshed out. And, the character I always go back to is Rena the Wild Thing, who we both loved a lot, who I would have loved to see more from, and who, when we finish this, I will absolutely miss, and I will still want to see in things.
I agree. I think she goes down in a list of really, not maybe all-time great underappreciated characters, but her last second appearance in this, she's going to be one of the last things we get to discuss. But, seeing her here is one of the things that revitalized this universe for me, because it's crazy how many notes of hours they got in the past. Number one, Phil had no dialogue in 3 volumes. Praise be to the Goblin. 2, Zane got a new costume. It went from the ridiculous tie around, very Breckenmeiler, where's your sense of pit hospitality kind of look, to he's just in maroon shorts. I own those shorts. That's great.
And I think he is becoming a character that we can see as being a little less silly at this point, because he's just such an established part of this universe. And even when they do kind of the old secret identity switcheroo with May, who still doesn't really know anything about J2, there's something about it that comes off as a little bit charming, because for all the silliness when we covered the book, now he's an Avenger. He's part of all this. And whatever his ridiculous status quo, we kind of love him for what he is.
And so much of that is the now well over half a decade of hard work by predominantly the same creative team. And we see those same names pretty fluidly throughout this run. Every page of this is written by Tom DeFalco, with the occasional help from long-term collaborator Pat Olive on issue number 85. Pencils all come from Ron Frenz, with the exception of the few spots by Pat Olive, like issue 71, 74, 81, and issue 85. Industry legend Sal Buscema, and that is how he shall always be referred to, is responsible for most of the inks, with a little bit of help from Rich Parada. Once again, Pat Olive, if I got paid every time I said that guy's fucking name, and Scott Koblish. Colorists are split between Udon Studios and Gotham Studios. Additionally, issue 85 sees assist from Digital Rainbow, another studio-based color team. So what a lot of people might not realize about the coloring process is very frequently you have a flatter, and the flatter goes in and just fucking colors everything in within the lines. I'm not kidding. I flat for my husband, who's a professional colorist, and then the colorist comes in and does all of the beautiful shading work and the texture work, and puts in values that make a little bit more sense with the page composition. So studios are a really great way that you can get a holistic, consistent look meant to look like one guy without really going crazy. Like Alex Ross uses, the Alex Ross studio, and it's that sort of idea. So this really marks a change in comic colors for me, and all letters, of course, by VC's Dave Sharp.
I associate this book so much with Pat Olive's style that having this really concentrated Ron Frenz time was jarring, is not the right word, but it was very noticeable. And Ron Frenz really does a more cartoonish style. It feels like a Saturday morning cartoon in really good ways, but it affects all aspects of the book, including the coloring, which sort of enhances that feeling of something that is, I don't even want to say a little bit younger. It's not like it skews younger, but it skews a little simpler.
I really do get what you mean. It's kind of got a young readers or maybe animated series vibe to it in a way that's more accessible to a casual fan.
And I feel like there are times where Pat Olive's art doesn't really jive with how juvenile the book is being, either intentionally or unfortunately sometimes, especially in the earlier volumes, completely unintentionally, but it was a stylistic flair to it that was not going to enhance anything for a young reader, and the writing wasn't really really enhancing anything for an adult reader. So there was kind of a disconnect. And we reach a point in these volumes with Ron Friends, with the writing as well, where I think everything is sort of coming together and feeling a little bit more holistic for what this book is just kind of finding is its niche.
It's so interesting that we're talking about it in that way, that we're saying finding its niche at, issue 85. When we talked about issue 50, we were like, yeah, huge sales spike. The sales spike from issue 75 didn't even push Spider-Girl above the sales of the official handbook of the Marvel Universe released in September that contained the MC2 universe. Like, legitimately, issue 75 of Spider-Girl did not eclipse 25,000 copies.
Yeah, it doesn't really surprise me.
I think I'm surprised in as far as I think there's long been a sense of, oh, it's 75 issues, it's like it's a fucking thing kind of attitude. There's, so many things that skate by on the mediocrity of longevity. And I certainly don't think this book did that. I mean, I'm really proud that we're continuing this coverage. I'm really excited. This is such a interesting turning point for May, but I do think I can see where culturally the changing landscape of comics, I mean, we measured a lot of early MC2 by, we're approaching Grant Morrison's new X-Men. We're in Grant Morrison's new X-Men. Yeah, you know what? We're in fucking Bendis's new Avengers now.
And I guess the craziest part to me is at some point, especially around now, is really when I would have thought it would have happened. Somebody would have said, there's clearly something to May. I don't know how much else we can salvage from this universe. It might be time to pull her into a main story and get her out of this world that is unrecognizable to comic readers and not really supporting any other books.
Because as much as I'm excited for us to get to re-experience a vast wealth of characters from the MC2 in the course of this episode, something I do need to recognize is all of this was sort of a means to a dead end. There really isn't any value that can be mined from a sort of failing singular universe, and that is very evident in the fact that the bulk of the issues we are discussing today, issues 73 to 85, have never seen print in trade or digest form.
And I think we see it reflected in the fact that the MC2 is like a footnote in Secret Wars, which is bringing together so many recognizable universes. That was actually something that, even though I didn't know a lot about MC2 at the time, I remember thinking that I was shocked that there wasn't a piece of Battle World that wasn't specifically MC2, because I do remember, the name is so synonymous with even things like the Ultimate Universe. So the fact that after all this time we see so little from the MC2 show up in any other Marvel continuity, I think means to a dead end is the perfect way to put it.
Because, not to get a little precious about it, but yeah, I do think you're really, really right that there is something shocking about the fact that individual X-Men arcs got their own miniseries during Secret Wars, and somehow MC2 was relegated to the backup of a backup kind of thing. It's really staggering to see the sort of, I don't want to say flaunted disrespect that the MC2 universe received, but there really is something so valuable about going to guys like Tom DeFalco and Ron Friends who understand the core element of what defines a character like Spider-Man to get their valuable take on, who Spider-Man is, because, what's going on in Spider-Man right now is getting weird. It's 2005, so it's my precious J. Michael Straczynski run with the Spider Totem and Ezekiel and destined to be a great spider person, and then the other where he goes into a spider rage and he gets a spider cocoon, and that's not my jam so much. But this is a weird time for Spider-Man, so of course it's a weird fucking time for May.
I gotta be honest, this is an era of Spider-Man that I fully have zero knowledge of.
Yeah, it's a weird one, and I dig it. I think the ballsiest thing in the entire world was at this point, they had a title called Friendly Neighborhood Spider-Man, which was, I think, responsible for why every comic book now is just a sentence. Every comic book title, it doesn't even really need a plot. As long as you've got a really cool sentence and all of the pianos are filled with skulls. That's the name of a comic book now. It's huge, it's number one, and I cannot wait for the Peach Momoko variant. But I think Friendly Neighborhood Spider-Man kind of dicked that real good till that was the situation. situation.
Yeah, it's very defining, right?
And speaking of defining, I just want to say that, it's so significant that issues 67 to 72 mark the end of something that kind of moved me. I don't want to sound dramatic, but when I worked at the comic shop and, Spider-Girl was coming out in digest form, I just rooted for it. It was the same way that, like, I think Runaways was coming out in digest form for a long time. And there's something cool about digests. I released my comic Kid Riot in digest. I think it's a really neat format to make comics feel a little bit more like they fit in your bag. And Spider-Girl doing this thing, being her own book in her own universe, and then being reprinted her own way with Volume 12, The Game's Villains Play, receiving print on March 24th, 2010, seeing the end to a very successful line of digests, which numbered 12 volumes of Spider-Girl, a volume of J2, a volume of A Next, a volume of Fantastic Five, and a volume of Wild Thing. It is just disappointing that those digests ended over a decade ago, and it's to no fanfare.
I would be really fascinated to hear from someone who was a kid at the time who picked those up, because of course when these stories were originally being published, it's like more than half a generation difference between the original publishing and the digest publishing. And so the idea of being like, when we were in middle school, being able to pick up these actual full issues, and then when, kids 10 years younger than us are in middle school picking up the digests, are they still able to get enough out of the story from what's there? Like, is there a universality to the teenageness of the story? Or, is the adult contemporary viewpoint that is informing this story now so far removed that it was like tough for kids to even get into it?
I'm fascinated to know, especially because at this very moment on shelves is a line of digests reprinting the 1960s adventures of a lot of Marvel's earliest heroes, which in terms of connecting to a zeitgeist-based generational diaspora, I think is completely as disconnected from reality as was MC2 being published a decade later for a generation in many ways 20 years younger than the original intended. So it is certainly worth still talking about. And I hope that any readers who did grow up on these trades or grew up on the loose issues, feel a connection and reach out about it. I know series contributor Steve has had some really lovely things to say about their memories of A Next and a lot of these early MC2 titles. Spider-Girl 67 starts up with "It's a bad fucking day for Nancy Lou."
Yeah, I mean, it's the reckoning we saw coming from the last volume. I will say the Mark of the Mutant moment was a little bit odd.
One of the things that shows really clearly in rereading this book is just how much fun that Tom DeFalco and crew had kind of playing with every little element of the Marvel universe. And it's not that I think they necessarily didn't know what they were doing in some places, but when you play a lot of cards, some of them are gonna lose.
Yeah, they really can do whatever they want here. It's essentially consequence free. There are a lot of things where I'm like, that was a mistake. And then I'm like, no, it wasn't a mistake. They just can do that. And it's not going to affect any other books or any other characters. Probably not really affecting sales potential that much. They're just doing whatever the hell they want.
And speaking of doing whatever the hell they want, I thought so much of this issue was not telegraphed. I kind of wonder why they published this volume and didn't end it off with the previous volume. Maybe they thought that the digest sales were there. Maybe they didn't expect to bring the series to a close with digest number 12. But this is such a turning point for so many characters in such a jaw-dropping way. I have a million things to say about Hate Crime Brad, but just everything about this issue. Finally, JJ is back to being like sort of a person. I really fucking fascinating.
Yeah, I had to go back and keep looking at the numbering because I thought maybe I had missed something. This really does feel like the final issue of the last volume, and then you would pick up from here and go into the next one.
The defaced Muty locker having echoes of God Loves, Man Kills is particularly chilling, especially because these are guys who wrote during that time, so they were probably, in on the event as it occurred, and we already kind of knew that lockers are a thing from previous arcs, so that's nice. I appreciate that. I was so surprised when Megan Brady showed up and was like, hey, no one sees me, so when they make their hate crime plans, they don't notice me, but I'm in the room. Hey.
An absolutely bonkers plot point that has yet to be resolved but continues to be commented on.
And it's fascinating.
Is she there beyond her? Like, what
is happening?
I'm really curious to know if anything ever comes of this.
Because, so many of our notes in the previous episodes were like, oh my God, I'm so past the high school stuff. You know what? This arc so is May. The high school stuff takes such an extreme backseat for the next 3 volumes.
Yeah, which is funny because we will start to get to Spider-Girl and her amazing friends. The final page, just reminder that these people exist and are important that we definitely need because they're actually not. It is in some ways really nice to see May at times have to acknowledge the fact that they simply are not as important. Because what I will say is that there are a few times in later volumes where their personal drama becomes kind of important and May has to stop and actually help her friends. And it's refreshing and feels like it has some value because she has acknowledged that she kind of has other stuff going on.
There's so much going on that it does feel like they tried to enumerate her friends during this issue to give us a sense of who everyone is. And I did kind of get some clear definitives. Like, I will now never get Brad and JJ confused again because JJ's kind of a cool dude and Brad's a big racist. And I'm shocked by some of the decisions they made because this is definitely a coming of age moment for a lot of characters. Like, it is kind of a whose side are you on? Are you on the side of goodness or are you on the side of blind prejudice? And there is just such a line drawn in the sand.
The other thing that makes it really fascinating as somebody whose primary entry to the Marvel Universe throughout my time reading it is the X-Men, the fact that there is no X book in MC2 at any point, and we don't really see a ton of mutants. We very rarely see the X people, hate saying that, and we very rarely see any other mutants. So Nancy being this very slight, possibly singular minority within the school and having no other mutant references around, it speaks to a very specific minority perspective, and it really heightens the tension of the fact that if people don't pick her side, if people don't choose to stand up for her, if May doesn't do better, she really has no chance. There is nobody else that's going to say, hey, I'm just like her and I'm going to come help her out. I mean, ironically, the mutants actually do come and do that, but within the high school itself, she's really on her own. The hero that May can really be in that moment is not to physically fight or defend anybody, but to refuse to stand for injustice, essentially.
And that's part of what makes this book so complex and yet compelling, because for all of the ways we maybe feel that the book oversimplifies or undervalues the complexities of the world that May would experience, sometimes it does feel like they give her very trivial concerns for a person who is out there trying to save the universe. I think we do see May begin to understand a depth of experience through this arc. And it does get kind of clear here that Nancy Liu is othered in so many ways. She's a mutant. She moves to a new town. She is clearly not traditionally white. She's of Asian descent. And then you've got May. May who is white. May whose powers are easily hidden and who, if her status as a super being were known, really wouldn't destroy her life the way, Nancy being outed as a mutant destroys hers. It makes it very clear that while it is important for May to stand up to any abuse that she sees, they're not her abuses to suffer.
But it is her place to put her superpowered body in front of this person that is essentially defenseless despite having mutant powers. And it's interesting because they do, give you a flash to Sandra, who is being abused by her boyfriend again. And this arc does a few more things with Sandra and revisits things in a way that actually really redeemed the story for me, because again, we get a May that I feel like somehow she matured in her understanding of the other side of heroic responsibility, not simply fighting the bad guys, but knowing how to be a supportive ally that will take a punch so that somebody who is too weak to do so doesn't have to take it, even if that punch is a metaphorical one.
And, I think we see that translate into May putting her relationship with sort of strangers ahead of her relationships with women we thought were her friends. You know, she's clearly not ready to forgive Davida, and I don't blame her. Davida came out a little severe in earlier arcs, but I think Brenda Raptor is just getting the fucking shittiest shake from Mayday. Like, May, you gotta start being nicer to this poor woman.
It's a weird one. You know, it feels very old guy thinks that like girls having boy trouble and fighting over it is a compelling story. I will say it flattens out real quick as these volumes continue, and I do appreciate in later stories as the romantic complexity between Brenda and Normie ramps up. You really do get this repeated beat of May being like, this is your friend, you care about her, and I feel like following through on that. This feels like this issue in particular and her perception of Brenda feels like really coming to the end of that lack of maturity.
There's a lot of lack of maturity among who feel like trying to do their best characters in this issue, this arc, but this issue especially, because I feel like the buzz is it's so weird because we ended the Buzz's miniseries incredibly positive on him, even if we thought, you know, the miniseries itself was a little clunky at times. But everything he's given us since then, now just to remind everybody, we covered the Buzz back in our 5th episode. This is our 8th episode, and everything since then with the Buzz has been pretty unfulfilling.
It really has. I really think it was a huge mistake to not do their reveal to each other of their superhero identities. Even if they weren't going to be get together romantically, it might have actually even been better if they weren't. But we've now hit this point where it seems like there is not enough time within the writing to actually do that story. And spoiler alert, as we get through all these issues, it still will not come up. JJ still doesn't know that May is Spider-Girl. And it just, on top of making him seem a little bit stupid and incompetent, it means that he is always missing a greater point that May is understanding in a way that I just don't want for this character that I really do like conceptually, and especially with Brad going down this racist path, I want to see somebody male in her life who is not her father doing better.
That's great because, yeah, you know what? Normie does kind of let her down, and all of the other men in her life have communication problems. And yeah, you know, JJ had the potential to be kind of like May's equal breakout. And because he's never really taken that hold, every time we meet a new male character, I'm like, oh, is that the new male breakout character? Not that she needs a male lead or anything, but naturally there is going to be that guy that stands out unless there's no men in the book where you're like, oh, that's kind of like the male lead if there was one. And I feel like every time we meet one, a new male character, I'm like, oh, maybe that's it. Because Normie never took hold, the Buzz never took hold, Dark Devil certainly never took hold, and what? Kane and his aggro crag face is going to be the leading man in this universe?
Yeah, we're left with very few options. And in some ways, I like that there's no man who can even be sort of mistaken as a flagship character or as somebody to look to when May screws up as somebody who's doing it right. But we are missing positive male influence in her life. I shouldn't say positive because there's a lot of, you know, good people. Normie's a great guy. Her dad's a great guy. But it just seems like I want to see somebody who can keep up with May to some degree.
Because it's not that we need her to have a romantic interest, but just somebody who could understand. And, you know, it's a tough road for May. And I feel like the end of this issue is so overwhelming where Nancy is like, yeah, I'm going to go join the X-Men. And I'm like, wait, should I be on the side of that or no? Like, it's presented in such a confusing way. I don't know if she's like, yes, this is assimilationist of me, goodbye. Or if she's like, no, this is the right thing to do of me. I'm embracing my culture, goodbye. Or if they're just like, we want you to get to split the difference and pick it for yourself. Bye.
Because it happens in basically the course of 5 panels, this huge thing where she's going to completely upturn her life again and embrace this identity that is unique to her among anyone around her. This is the first time we've seen the X people in forever. They walk off into the mist, literally. There is no clear statement here. This is one of those things where for this book, this is just the thing that happened. This is how we lost Nancy Lou.
I will say the other thing that just kind of happens in this issue that I am not particularly crazy about is while the Sandra stuff does reach somewhere that I'm much more okay with, I do not think the Sandra stuff in this issue lands. She's a little bit like, you know what? Maybe you mind your manners and let me get abused because you've got problems too.
On the one hand, I hate it. On the other hand, I so hated May, the person who has never dealt with domestic abuse, having all the answers and bothering this girl who is not prepared to receive May's like henpeckish help. This flattened things out for me a little bit. We could have cut this part out entirely and gone to the resolution that we're going to get a few issues from now. But I was glad to see a version of May approach this situation again with a lot less confidence that she has any idea what the fuck she's doing, because she does not.
You know what I was not happy to see?
Another
new haircut.
Yeah.
We need to stop defining May's success as a person by getting a new haircut. There is something a little about May, you're depressed, just change your hair. That feels like a sort of oversimplified response to depression. And I feel like even if the answer is oversimplified here, the execution of how she handles things over the next few issues, I mean, she's obviously a 16-year-old going through an identity crisis in these 3 arcs. So it's not so oversimplified.
But it is just an odd choice. Again, like the fact that this isn't the end of the previous volume and we start the next one, that's a weird thing, because this just feels like a big reveal that she's done this change, but it doesn't really amount to anything in any capacity. Like even, God, I love Ron Friends, but his art varies so wildly, not in terms of quality. He just does different stuff all the time, which I really enjoy. But the idea that in any way this change of look would symbolize something for her is really mitigated by where we go from here, which is visually not having a super consistent look. And also it doesn't really indicate any kind of turning point for May.
They give a lot of her saying her mom's catchphrases for the next couple of issues that I think is meant to symbolize the impact of women in the Spider-Verse. And that's, to me, much more effective than having, 17 Spider women show up
on the cover, but never in the issue.
Yeah, truly. Recognize who Mary Jane is and her significant contributions to Spider lore. I think that's a really cool touch point. I think for all of the ways in which we see really cool stuff like that, there's still some awkward misses, and it's kind of exemplified best by the first few pages of 68 for me. The "you want some sugar" thing really killed me. One of the things that I think they're trying to showcase is that May, as a young female hero, is going to experience sexism. When the book is often guilty of some form of doing a sexism, the lesson feels poorly learned.
Spider-Girl is no specific age to the people that view her. And the idea that a variety of men would look at her and say something sexual is fully plausible and believable. The problem is Mayday, as an uncostumed person, experiences so much odd, anywhere from grooming to sexualization to just condescension from men in her life, not all of which feels like, oh, there's a lesson to be learned from this. We did intend for this to happen. Sometimes, like in the case of the romance plot with Normie, it just seems like a really bad idea that once it had gone too far, they kind of pull back from. But it's never really clear if everybody conceiving of these stories gets what the lesson here ought to be and how we ought to go about learning it.
That is very, very true, because I think we're meant to see the Buzz's continued aggression toward everybody as his growing frustration with injustice, but he just sort of comes off petulant. He just sort of comes off as a child, and, when Mayday says it's Mr. Rude and Crude himself, yeah, all right, that's a really fair way to describe him. I do, and it sounds so silly, and it sounds like I'm kind of like being unreasonable, but something I think that perhaps the Young Avengers got right by that point in canon, which is like this exact same time, right? The Young Avengers are coming out right around now, is I don't feel that early on in that first run, the Young Avengers, outside of shape-changing Hulkling, are ever drawn such that I'm like, no, absolutely no way, not a chance. The Buzz is a level of muscular that, like, number one, the dude is doing a great cycle of Tren, and number two, I am sort of fascinated by some of the proportions. He is almost bent and warped to almost feminine proportions on page 4 of issue 68 on the Marvel Digital Edition. That calf is exploding. Those shoulders are gigantic. His rippling abdomen. And, there is something that supports exactly what you're saying about how people sexualize May. They would think he's a fucking man. They would never think he's a 16-year-old boy.
And yet he's always treated with this kind of aw shucks, Like the kid has shown up.
Yeah. And when Dark Devil shows up, everybody's like, it's the wise old man in the young body. There's so much about the treatment of these characters that is oriented by the perspective from which they are drawn and written by the creators that is not really reflective of how the characters would behave in universe. It doesn't really bother me. It tracks. It's why everybody thinks Spider-Man is a menace when he's always saving people. I get it. It is definitely something. I'm glad we spent so much time with Buzz because Jade and Doc Ock, really come from the Buzz's miniseries. So that there's so much time spent on them here also backs up our whole theory that there's no way this was ever meant to be a one-book universe. You can see them struggle with it.
The Warriors are also another case of that. By this point, I would have liked to have seen a Warriors book. I really didn't like even the concept of it. I still hate the name, but whatever. But at this point, they are a cohesive team, and they're characters that I actually enjoy seeing work together. They actually have managed, through coming out of Spider-Girl, to mesh really well with her in terms of sometimes they're working together, sometimes they are at odds, but they are tied to each other's work. It's a great team, honestly, and I'm shocked that never got even a 3-issue of its own.
Maybe like a pronounced backup story, just something to sort of acknowledge that they've been doing a lot of the heavy lifting on this book for a while. Part of what the new Warriors represent, or the Warriors, whatever the hell we're calling them right now, part of what Phil's expensive mistake represents is a way to have a big super team without having to call on the Avengers in a way that allows you annexed as the big guns. And that means that the Warriors just showing up and basically being Spider-Girl's extra bodies is a lot of heavy lifting on characters that really don't get enough screen time to get as developed as they deserve, considering how many of them have played pivotal roles in this universe since near its inception.
The other thing I think that would have been nice about a Warriors book is May ends up doing a lot of crime underworld stuff, especially in these next few issues that we're going to talk about, that just the amount of it that she has done and been involved in doesn't feel Spider-Person. It doesn't feel like her corner of the universe. It feels much more like something that Daredevil would be involved in. In this case, maybe it would be Dark Devil. It does feel like something that the new Warriors, or the Warriors and their handler, would be really equipped to deal with. The character development that we've had on some of these villains could pay off in a way that makes sense for a different book. It never makes sense to me for May, which is real tough because there is just so much of it.
It's easy to forget that the Warriors aren't even the team that Kane's a part of because they have some crossover membership kind of with Raptor. There's just so much going on and there's so many characters that needed a better shake that when we get so much of JJ's interiority, so much of JJ's life, but then it goes nowhere. It's so fascinating. This book just, this title just needed 10 more pages a month somehow.
It could have used another writer for 6-issue arcs, even 3-issue arcs every now and then, not just to give DeFalco some time off from the book, but because this is not Chris Claremont plotting his magnum opus. This is a writer who had some really great ideas, who understood a lot about the heart of a certain corner of the Marvel universe and infused that into a new younger character, but really should not have been the only person responsible for character and plot development within the stories.
Because it sometimes leads to some places where maybe the writer just doesn't see how something would shake out. Like all of the Flash Thompson stuff, this guy is such a fucking creep. Chris Hansen would be waiting for him standing at the kitchen island and be like, why don't you take a seat? Why do you think you're here? I want to show you what you said on the internet.
Also, why does he look like that if he is a contemporary of Peter Parker?
Oh, I actually have it written in my notes that in this image, he looks like an unrelated gay man from Fort Lauderdale. Like, this is absolutely not the same Coach Flash Thompson that I have seen previously. This man is on his way to a piano bar to do his 6 p.m. set.
But man, those calves are kicking.
Yeah, it's a good book for calves. I gotta point that out. I don't understand this JJ Brad thing that's happening. You've made it very clear. Brad is a racist. Get him out of our book. I don't need him here. Like, you worked so hard to vilify him, unless he's going to be like super undercover with like some sort of teenage Jump Street unit. I really need him him out of this book because I only have so much room for one whiny man baby that looks exactly like that. And because he is on the side of buzzy little angels, I've decided it's JJ. And Brad, you suck.
Yeah, fully agree. Now Brad's only plot beat from May's perspective is, I don't know how to deal with Brad because I know that he's a racist, but I don't want to hate him, which, hey, you should just fucking write the guy off forever. There's no use for this character anymore. I mean, I know I say that so often about the high school kids, but like, obviously we're stuck with them. At issue 68, we're clearly not pulling May out of high school. So we're here, we're doing these stories. You know, this is a great time for Moose, I'll tell you that much, but Brad's got nothing more going for him. We've established that he's a racist. He should just switch schools.
Yeah, I could really say goodbye to him. You know, there are things that keep this moving and keep it kind of spidery. She throws a spider tracer on JJ, so we get the reappearance of Richie, so we get that man in a van kind of thing that I love. There's a lot here that feels really good and really natural, and then we get the WB moment where Flash Thompson like takes Peter out to dinner to ask for his daughter. I'm telling you, there's a Pornhub video that goes exactly like that.
All over high school basketball at a school that doesn't seem like high school sports are that important.
Yeah, there's something so disconnected about the way all of this is being handled. On page 14 of issue 68, the just like straight up his ass shot of the Buzz is really wild for what we're supposed to think is a 16-year-old boy. Like, sometimes in a book where we spend a whole lot of time visually representing high school, it seems as though we forget that these are then high schoolers, even when they're not in that particular location, such that it really does confuse these characters' identities for me as a reader.
Yep, and we see basically the same thing with May's butt on the next page.
Yeah, absolutely, as she clings to the wall. And speaking of, you know, really getting a fascinating parallel, I just think that they realized they went too far with Davida, and maybe they were like, we gotta fix Davida. How can we fix Davida? Make someone much worse. We have too many blonde guys. Let's ruin Brad. Because this Brad and Davida scene, it's just like, okay, we get it. He's racist. He's telling the black lady he's racist. We get it.
And we're getting the redemptive moment for Davida, which it's so tough because the idea that she of all people would be having these kind of doubts about Nancy Lou and be on the fence about which side she's on is a little bit insulting. The fact that this needs to be resolved in terms of personal drama that she has with May, also a little bit insulting. That Brad is in the mix as just the absolute worst. It's all just weird. Again, it feels like perspective from somebody that absolutely has no idea what high schoolers are going through in 2004.
It does show a real lack of understanding of what these characters would face emotionally. I remember being in a bunch of academic clubs and thinking that was like Jesse Spano, I'm so excited levels of, you know, destroy your life with whatever it takes to survive. And then we get that May is like, having a tough day, I'm gonna get a haircut and have a brownie. And, you know, for a character that you're trying to portray as facing the dilemmas of who watches the Watchmen, you're boiling away all of her problems with a Kathy chocolate ack, and it's just not the balance that May deserves.
No, and it never gels on panel. No matter how great things are going in terms of Spider-Girl's story and whatever conflict she's facing, the personal stuff is never really able to keep up because it is so often so trivial.
Now, I thought I could keep up. I was like, T. DeFalks, listen up. You know, Falcon Punch this. I know all of your tricks. You're showing me a tentacle. I get it. It's Doc Ock, and, you know, he's going to be in some sort of like giant octopus suit or whatever, and he's going to be the Iron Octopus, or I don't care. And okay, I get it. You know, ha ha ha, tentacle reveal. And then the next two-parter made me sound pretty stupid, and that was really fun because it is definitely a character that they refer to as Lady Octopus, despite her saying that's not my name. And then just shortly thereafter, they have daughter of Electra be like, stop calling me Electra. My name is Aftershock, but I understand how it's hard for you people. And like all of these women being like, you guys just can't figure out how to work a fucking name. It's sort of tongue in cheek, maybe, about the naming conventions of the earlier parts of the series and some of the, but you didn't guess it was gonna be that. Don't tell me that you've got an amazing surprise for me when the answer is really obvious. And there was very little obvious about this 2-part arc for me. I really thought issues 69 and 70, kicking off with that stunning cover on 69, and as a guy who's really into like animal transformation shit, I was really happy to see my boy Manwolf.
So as soon as I saw the tentacle, I knew it was not going to be Doc Ock, as we'd seen him in his weird Doc Ock wheelchair, but I did not expect we were getting what we got, which was a fantastic reveal, I will say. Also, I was very happy to see the Jameson parents, because that's been kind of a dangling plot thread and a weird thing that J. Jonah Jameson, of all people, was just in charge of this child's care. I am not as big of a Manwolf person, but I felt like they weaved it into this story quite nicely.
I'm just turned on whenever a guy's like, I can't control how aggressive and hairy I'm getting. I'm
sure.
like, okay, yeah, do it, Jameson. Show me. Like, I'm into it, right? I had a moment where I enraged, threw my tablet so hard, I was worried I broke it, and then I shouted, are you fucking kidding me? Dark Devil's alive! Fuck this book! Dark Devil's alive, I guess.
Dark Devil's alive. This book really might be raising the possibility that Dark Devil just straight up can't die. Not in a comic book, characters always come back because somebody's going to want to write them, but like that might be part of his power set. He's another one. 3 issues wasn't enough. He needs his own series. Those 3 issues were so freaking bonkers. Like, just being able to get something a little more level-headed out of this character would have been great, because his story and his identity and his character does continue to come together in the pages of Spider-Girl. And I finally find myself like really rooting for Riley Tyne in a way and being interested in him as a character. But it's really tough with him being this at best secondary, oftentimes tertiary character for Spider-Girl.
And his role seems to be come in with the knowledge and be able to fight anything, or get stabbed really hard and be of no use. But those are his 2 settings. He can either come in and be Tuxedo Mask, or he can come in and be Uncle Ben. But he can't seem to do anything else to help this poor woman.
No, and it's funny because at one point, Kane suggests that Spider-Girl is his protege, which is absolutely insane to me.
Yeah, I mean, ultimately, Dark Devil's had like 12 appearances. Shut up. Like...
And he spends 90% of the time just negging her and not helping.
It is a certain decision they made. And I feel like in a lot of ways, comic book writers have a lot of dad issues, or at least they present a lot of dad issues in their fiction. And so much of the Kane Dark Devil stuff is weird daddy issues. And of course, Normie is based on daddy issues. Peter's got failure as a nephew issues. And then May's kind of got some daddy issues. Like, there's layers of it here that just go all the way down. But one of them that I don't really understand is we get all this stuff about JJ and about his parents, and we never actually get what the fuck he wants or thinks.
No, the trope of like the parents that are in Europe definitely made me chuckle, but then they didn't actually know where to go when they finally brought the parents back, and we are still not getting enough buzz. So it felt like the point was more for the Man-Wolf reveal and the tie-in to Lady Ock than it had anything to do with JJ's life or developing that character further, tying his plot to May's. These people happen to work out as convenient accessories for the villain.
They also happen to be rogue super scientists experimenting genetically on people.
Like you do when you go to Europe.
Everybody is just casually a geneticist, and also an author is a geneticist, and also a crime watch person. I don't really know what Peter does. I feel like he just sits in an office and then goes to the police station sometimes.
He occasionally looks at slides.
Yeah, but I think they're of Phil's last trip to Acapulco. I don't think they're of anything.
I will say another viable career option that many, many, many people seem to be taking is crime.
Yeah, being a little man named Chesbro who works for the hottest iteration of the Black Tarantula in history.
I will be only referring to him as Chesbro, and that is a superhero title, not a last name.
Oh, I have him listed as Chesterton, Chessman, Cheeser. Yeah, this little man is fascinating because, number one, he looks like a Derek Robertson character. He really does not look like a Tom DeFalco, kind of Ron Friends, Pat Olive character. And I think one of the things comics has always been really good at is keeping the bad man in the shadows. And I think Chess is meant to represent sort of that bro. You know, he's meant to be that bro. But instead, because he's always like right next to Black Tarantula, it makes makes it seem like Black Tarantula is too busy lifting weights to learn how to use a phone.
100%. And I love it. It is absolutely perfect. The other thing I'm super happy about is that nobody ever makes fun of his size.
Ever.
Very happy about that. He's just this short little dude that shows up. He's always got the answers. He's always got a card he needs to give you. He's got somebody he needs to introduce you to. But yes, everything that he does, Black Tarantula could just do himself and save himself an entire person's salary and benefits.
Like, Black Tarantula could literally replace chess with a Bluetooth device. And, like, that's it. He's done. Sorry about it. I'm not trying to put this nice little man out of business or anything, but he really doesn't add anything to the story.
He adds a little bit of spice. He adds nothing logistically, but just in terms of, like, putting another person in that is just silly and fun, he is right on the money.
Yeah, I do appreciate him. I think he does a really good job keeping the book going for a while.
Because Tarantula might be, especially where things go with that story, might be too much on his own.
Oh, but he's so hot.
He is very hot. He might be a creeper. I don't know. I think having this sort of line of abstraction that Chesbro represents might be important for not making Black Tarantula just the soul-sucking worst.
Because one of the things that's complicated is Black Tarantula is so hot and so roided out. Like, he looks kind of like Bane.
Yes.
But he's a Latino lover.
Yeah.
And he's like, yes, I'm going to whisk you away and marry you one day. Mayday. And she's like, I'm a little girl. And he's like, but in my country. Like, it's that level of, why are you being played by Benjamin Bratt doing a Sofia Vergara impression?
I'm choosing to believe he's 18. That's the only way I can get through this. I know it's not real, but I have to do it.
I'll do it because after the Normie debacle, I hate it, but I kind of am like, okay, it's kind of cute that he's like, I will give up a life of crime for you. Not really. Like, I just really love the Lorenzo Lamas as Antonio Banderas as Renegade. It's really an over-the-top sort of pastiche of hyper-Latin, and it's no specific country. He looks very much like a luchador and has, very Cuban Miami kind of vibes. It's fascinating.
Yeah, and thank God, like, no phonetic accent or anything. This is the best we're gonna get. We don't ever get a specific age on him, so I like to believe that he started his life of crime when he was about 7. He's an expert at this point, but he is only 18 years old.
I'll accept it, because the main characters that do all of the work and all of the heavy lifting in 70 are 16. We have the super extended Spider-Girl versus Jade fight, and then we have the Buzz versus Man-Wolf. When Man-Wolf broke out of the cage, I was like, yeah, he's gonna come save that. Oh, fuck. Fine. It feels sometimes like the Buzz is expected to be able to be believed that he could go up against just about anybody, and then it does feel more often than not like they find a convenient reason why the Buzz's costume didn't work, or why his gauntlet didn't work, or why Richie had to help him with this. And then Richie has such a thankless job. He seems to have the same frowned panel traced over and over again, and all he ever gets is dialogue saying how not good at his job he is when JJ needs him. The Buzz deserves better.
Yeah, it is fully a product of him being written as needed for May's story and not really being a character on his own with his own story.
But, there's a number of characters that have their own story in this two-parter that really, I'm not sure why. Like, I have no problem with the Warriors showing up, but it does feel particularly unearned. And maybe because, like, again, I'm not like some huge Man-Wolf fan, like, oh, thank God Man-Wolf's here, the book is saved. I just think he's real hot, and, it's just, the hyper bara furry in me, I guess. I don't know. But, like, there's something about the way this fight ultimately goes down, where we see Spider-Girl leave Man-Wolf within an inch of, consciousness, as opposed to an inch of his life. And the Buzz is like, yeah, well, you might have hurt him anyway. And the other New Warriors are like, maybe don't be such a prick. I don't know. I think the Warriors suffer for having not enough screen time. Lady Hawk doesn't get as much development as we think she deserves. All said and done, I'm just glad at no point did they say that Spider-Girl is responsible for another bad guy getting away, and it's Canis and Black Tarantula all over again.
Yeah, we're going to get a little bit of that in future stories, although it has much more to do with May just questioning how to do stuff, which works for me a lot more than that, plus everybody telling her that she's the worst and she has no idea what she's doing. It just becomes very difficult to want to follow follow her at that point. When it's just the buzz being like, you hurt my dad, although nobody's acknowledging that that's who it is, it feels a lot more like people get hurt trying to do this stuff. May's not necessarily in the wrong, but it's really tough to have to do the thing that will save the day, which is where I feel like is a much more compelling zone from her than just like, oh, this 15-year-old can't stop fucking up and probably shouldn't be a superhero.
Because then we get issues like 71. I don't know. I thought 71 was like the best issue of this run. Maybe not the best issue of the run, but like this was definitely a standout. And it was a standout in a way that I thought like a lot of previous issues have failed to be standouts. Whenever we get an issue that's like the way that we felt that one issue of Fantastic Five where we went back to Latveria felt exactly like that issue of A Next where we went back to Latveria. You know, a lot of times when they do their, oh, let's throw a tribute to that previous arc, it feels maybe a little bit too on the nose or underwhelming the way we thought the Return of Thunderstrike kind of got absorbed into the arc it was in. But here, I thought this return of J2 and Doc Magus and Nemesis silly, fun, and set up stuff that ultimately like had a fun payoff in the rest of this reading.
Yep, I absolutely agree. All of the elements that are in this were already within the universe. If you've been reading everything, you should be pretty comfortable with what's here. That's something that for this book can be really tough. It is very inclined to introduce new elements that even if they're interesting, even if they have potential, there's just so much jammed into an individual volume that oftentimes it makes more sense to use what's already there. This is a great example. We're really happy to see J2. Dormagus hasn't been seen in anything in a while and is a cool character. This harkens back to stuff that we've seen from their books, but is its own story and introduces May to yet another side of superheroing. We've seen her go, toe to toe with aliens. Now we're going into other dimensions. That feels totally appropriate for where she is in her career. It's a hit all around. The only thing that's not a hit, J2's goatee is weird.
Yeah, J2 growing up hard in this issue was really interesting because I feel like, so dumb, but I grew up like really connected to this character and wanting to be him. I've talked about it a bit and I don't remember how much of it I've cut, but like I started like a really overweight, really unhealthy kid. And now as an adult, I am very much about my fitness, always want to be the biggest I can be. And that definitely grew for me as a kid. And it wasn't until adulthood that I felt it was attainable. And I feel like this J2 looks like a man in a way that the boy in me that grew up being like, yeah, I want to be just like J2. It's just sort of sad to not have gotten to see. And it's like a personal loss, I guess, not like a quality loss on the book. But I maybe didn't realize how much I wanted this issue, how much I really wanted to see J2 and sort of like Zane is in the school. Like I shouted how excited I was that Zane Yama, not J2, Zane Yama is in this. That's so cool. And, the Deacon's Den art looked like the classic J2 backup art. It was just down to the fastball special. I just really thought this issue, it said something to like young Nico that he really kind of needed to hear. This issue made me happy in a really hard to explain way.
I mean, I definitely get that. And while I don't have that same backstory, obviously having read this and enjoyed a lot of stuff about J2 conceptually and wanting to see the character show up more, again, that's one of the themes of this coverage, I think, is just like they're expanding the line at this point would have really been a great thing. And more page time in other stories for J2, seeing Zane as a character, much like May, who has been doing this for a while now and has a bit of a flow, even if there is a difference in terms of size and physical maturity between Zane and J2, Zane is J2. He has two bodies. He can embrace this thing. He's feeling comfortable in his superheroics. I love that. I think it's a great story. I love seeing it here. It does really make me yearn for more that unfortunately is not really coming anytime in this volume.
It did make me realize that what I want more than anything from this fucked gigantic universe is I really kind of want to write an MC2 Ultimates book, and I want it to star American Dream, Spider-Girl, J2, Rena, and like, man, I want to pick one of the like Raptor, like somebody crazy who just needs that minute, and have Doc make like these characters are so rich. Like that's why I'm hard on this universe, because I feel like some of the characters they've created are just like they're legend. They're legendary good characters. universe, and they get treated like napkin stories. And
Yeah.
you just can't fit a god on a napkin story.
And there's just no time for them in any of these things. It's all about May, which is great. May is great. But yeah, there is just so much potential here. And I love that idea of an MC2 Ultimates. I would love to see just the tone and stylization and general understanding of humanity and youth reimagined with all of the trappings of MC2, because there really is a lot of good groundwork laid. Again, you know, it would have been great to see other writers on these characters more, just somebody else's perspective besides this team that had some really great ideas, but just wasn't as attached to the cultural zeitgeist of the time as other writers were.
1000%. It really is interesting the things they were able to get right despite that disconnect. Like, man, I really did feel like I was 13 reading that issue. Like, I just could not stop turning the pages. It tells me that in my previous rereads, I really didn't emotionally connect with this material before. And it kind of reminds me that you have to read with a purpose. Reading with no purpose is just sort of looking at words, even if the purpose is just have fun. Okay, but then read it like you're trying to have fun. I think sometimes when we do these big comic rereads and we're trying to do these historiographies and we're trying to take notes and be able to say, oh, I read that, so that you can talk about it with people if it ever comes up, or you read it on the floor of a con, whatever, you know, you forget how much of it is just sort of like punch, and that the actual heart of each story is in finding the meticulous magic that falls between the right words and falls in the perfect panel bleed position and the right color job and the pencil work. And just this issue really is one of the issues that far and away proves why we do this. Makes me happy.
And it's a good revolution point for the entire line because it does pull from all sides of what has come before with the MC2.
I hope that it was one of the things that helped convince them that something like Last Hero Standing could work.
Yeah, I'd be very curious about that.
Because I'll be honest, I think issue 72 being the final issue to see Digest publication really isn't fair. Not that it's a bad issue in any stretch, but it kind of leaves the title in a weird place. I'm happy that Lady Octopus is then the final Digest issue bad guy. And I hate to talk about this issue like it's the final Digest issue, but it really is. And that's pretty significant. It really is a weird place to leave us off, though.
We're really just hitting a stride in terms of where we're going with this Black Tarantula story. There's honestly a lot of this stuff that I don't like because I don't like May doing crime underworld stuff, but we do establish here that we're about to go into a big story that Lady Ock was kind of the appetizer for. She's the hint that there's bigger stuff going on, and this is where we get the first of a bunch of reveals about what all that stuff is. So stopping here, it's unfortunate for the people that read only in digest form. I hope they were able to get some sort of closure.
Speaking of under things and closure, I want to take a second because they are in this same issue going to do some stuff that misses the fucking point. But for me, the low point of the MC2 universe wasn't even written by Tom DeFalco, right? It's the shower scene. I can't get past it. I can't get over it. I'm furious about it. It falls so close to the celebration of her 16th birthday that it's disturbing. And the shower scene isn't exactly erased, but damn, Tom, this really, like this sports bra and like nearly like boy short set, this is well thought. This is the kind of thing where like, I don't want anybody sexualizing a 16-year-old fictional girl ever. This is a way to give her a sexuality that is appropriate for a 16-year-old young woman coming of age without making it clear that somebody somewhere working on this thought too highly of it.
Yep, I think that is the perfect description. Yeah, this is just a person in their underclothes. There's nothing sexy about it. This is what we want to be seeing from May. If you are a teenager reading this book and you know, it's age appropriate for you to sexualize May, you will come up with a way to do that. It's not the artist's job to take you there with teen characters. It's really their job to take you here to the point where they are just getting through their lives the best they can. And this is exactly it.
I also want to point out something that TK and I have in common, as well as just thinking the world of each other, is a love of emotional 90s alternative, and that Cranberries reunion tour poster.
Yep.
It's nice.
Yep.
Okay, what is sort of weird though, I will say, the hearts to hearts, heart to hearts, spider heart to spider, I don't know, but like his moments of weblet love for his daughter are really odd. Sometimes it feels like like he's maybe implying that bad guy that she's talking about is the worst bad guy he ever faced. And I get that Peter, especially like Tom Holland Peter as an adult man, is probably like prone to hyperbole, but sometimes it does sound like it's his first day at Spider Camp and he thinks it's really important that everybody gets to play.
Or the flip side of that, it is 20 years after his first day at Spider Camp and he is remembering everything with the same rose-colored glasses and just putting all of his own expectations and memories on his daughter, who just really doesn't care. And it feels beneath Peter.
But I do like kind of pointing out how much they can do so quickly. I like your perspective that it's like 20 years later. And, you know, with a line, we get how out of touch he is, if that's the perspective. Because there are times Tom DeFalco gets a lot about a character out with a single line. Sometimes it is by doing the most exaggerated version of that character possible. I mean, legitimately, JJ basically hops into the panel and says, I'm not the Buzz, but I heard each one of his balls weighs 13 pounds. He has to walk funny. It's a special kind of walk he had to get. He wears special pants. His feet are big too, and they always smell good. Like, you hear it. It's there. It's one line. He just sort of like pops in and is like, yeah, the Buzz is the best. And you sort of be like, you're bad at having a superhero identity. Because Mayday is always like, Spider-Girl's cool, but I guess I like the Fantastic Five more. And everyone's like, oh, well, then you're definitely not Spider-Girl. Maybe it's Courtney. Okay, but who is this old man? This old man who keeps popping up in Mayday's life who's like, hi, I'm Chris. I'm 43. I am Drew Barrymore, Never Been Kissed style.
That was exactly my note.
High school.
That was my exact note, that he is Drew Barrymore and Never Been Kissed, but a dude.
He and Fort Lauderdale gay Flash Thompson look roughly the same age.
And it's both older than Peter Parker.
Yes, and they both, come to think of it, they kind of look like they might live together in Fort Lauderdale, but I am convinced that we're going to find out Chris has a shed, and it is not filled with the lawnmowers he says it's filled with. But oh look, Chesbop is back.
Maybe this is really the character that May is meant to be with.
I kind of do love Chesbop always starting the conversation with, do you know who this is? Like, such a particular hello. Like,
I'm also really confused as he's wearing very thick glasses or goggles.
Oh, I love it. Yeah. Maz Kanata glasses.
Mm-hmm.
Like, Normie's in this book?
From time to time, he shows up with his girlfriend, Brenda Drago, and they hug each other, and May thinks about how things could have been different.
Oh my God, she just wistfully stares off into the distance, sitting on a chair, Uncle Jesse style. I can't even handle it.
It really does neither of them justice.
It doesn't. Also, I do want to make a point. Everyone's always in the hospital, and then they're in the hospital for way too long, and then as soon as they get out of the hospital, they have no lingering chronic pain. And everyone's always in the hospital for way too long. Normie's been in the hospital for like 11 trades.
Also, they're in the hospital for broken bones, but doctors always want to run more tests on the bones?
In case the bones are spilling out into you or something. In case your bones are filled with sand and they cracked.
I guess I would want to test that, yeah.
I am personally very resistant to this, how bad can the dryer be? And then like months of tattered costume. Oh my God, this is issue 72. She doesn't get a new costume till 75. We're going to talk about how tattered her costume is for so long. I would just have gotten her a GoFundMe by now.
This is 2004. That was not an option. You would have to solicit donations on MySpace and just hope that people wrote the checks to the right person. But it still would have been a better option than just constantly doing costume shenanigans that make no sense.
Hey, Normie, what I'm trying to say is, will you take this to the next level? Will you marry me?
You're a bird lady.
We need to talk. I didn't know what to say to and he kisses her on the forehead. It's so patronizing. First of all, I would have bird cut him, and then I would have bird ate him, and then I would have bird fed him to smaller bird people, because just like, he's so fucking patronizing in that moment.
I was really hoping that was going to turn out that it's the moment that he came out.
Brenda, we have to talk. I think you've known for a really long time that one of my favorite things about you issue is your masculinity as a bird person.
Exactly.
I'm unfortunately really here for that.
We need to talk in the context of a marriage proposal is just such a weird, like, I know we love a mystery. I know we need a cliffhanger. I know we got to get this into the next issue. I get how writing works. It just feels like there were so many other ways to do it.
It's what we've always said about anytime a writer says the only way to keep characters interesting is to keep them unhappy. Because the definition of romance is the will they or won't they. The minute they're together, it's no longer a romance story. So I get the idea, but it is a really needless manipulation of the plot and doesn't really do a whole lot for me. Also doesn't do a whole lot for me, Doc Ock being like, I'm just not going to kill you. Bye.
Doc Ock is the weirdest character. The fact that it's like a bustier that the arms are attached to, but she can't be younger than 60.
Oh yeah, no, I need her to be played by Holland Taylor.
Yeah, she's definitely a pansexual, which very aggressively so. I'm living for it. Everything about her that is interesting has nothing to do with the plot of a supervillain, and I just want to know what her apartment looks like.
Oh god, I really want to know what her Audible account looks like.
Yep, but like this crime stuff is just, it's another day in the life, and we already know there's bigger fish to fry, so I'm just kind of, let's wrap it up here. But if we are going to go to her apartment, I definitely do want to do that, but then let's wrap it up.
Speaking of big fish, I am like obsessed with how fucking huge Black Tarantula is.
Yeah.
I'm letting all my weird shit out on this episode, but there is so many weird keyed into our gay queer demographics weird love of body dysmorphic hypersize and transformation laden throughout this young woman's personal awakening of becoming a hero that I really think speaks to the queer identity and the queer experience as written by a 50-year-old straight man.
Couldn't have said it better myself.
Man, what is he fucking curling there, dude? Like, it's gotta be like $2.95 in some artificial fake plates he had custom made just for his giantness. I don't even know what to say. Clearly that.
The striations on his pecs are just absolute perfection.
Like, I feel like I could rest this comic on them to read it.
Yep, and then eat a meal.
I could read him and eat off of him on him.
Mm-hmm.
You know, all in all, that devolved a little bit, but I thought that was a really great volume. It really said goodbye to a lot of the dumber shit that we'd been really complaining about for a number of volumes. I've been giving a lot of stuff B's and B pluses and been like, but here's why it's okay to overlook this other stuff. Nah, that's just a straight B. Like, no justification, no alterations, no, I gotta make a point to make it okay. No, that's just a straight B. And I could make arguments for a B plus. I could probably make an argument for a B minus, but that just felt like a normal volume of a comic from 2004.
Here's why it's getting a B minus from me. Because prior to this, we did those 2 fantastic 6-issue arcs that were 6-issue arcs. And I really did think we were going somewhere with that. So to so precipitously drop a concept which was really helping to streamline the entire Spider-Girl experience, even though what we got was actually pretty good, and you're right, we did say goodbye to a lot of dumb stuff. I feel like this is really the point at which Spider-Girl matures to a level that needed to happen a while ago. All that's really good stuff. I just think they were on to something with those 6-issue arcs, and this set, the like Lady Ock part of the story, is almost a complete 6-issue arc that could have worked, but it's just chopped up in such a way that it doesn't quite work the way the other ones were. It's a lost lesson, and the story does suffer because of it. It's a B minus because of it, where I actually think it might have been a B plus or an A minus if things had gone a little more as we'd seen them in the past.
Okay, so we've had a run of really cool, really stylized covers, and we continue to have a run of really cool, really stylized covers. However, 73 is not that.
Nope, it's May in a Juicy Couture tracksuit getting into her Spider-Girl uniform as drawn by Ron Friends.
With what I can only explain is like this world's version of Cloud and Barrett in the background. I just don't know what I'm looking at. Are they supposed to be JJ and Richie? But that hat is completely completely unacceptable unless you are the first mate to a skipper and you are stranded on an island.
I feel like that hat has gone back in style today, but in 2004 is completely not at all the style. Also, if that were Richie, his hair has suddenly been shaved. It's a weird, also, why the American flag in the background? I mean, I get why it's outside of a school. I guess it's just such an odd cover.
It's odd.
There's seagulls in the background. I'm sorry. I just had to point it out.
No, and like the way the tracksuit fits her is bizarre. Like the way it accentuates out and like flares over her ass, but like doesn't quite fit her horrifically bony elbows, right? Like some people are like, I've got really dry elbows, but I'm like, her elbows are just bones. Like she has bone elbow disease where the bones grow on the outside of her elbows. They're elbones. They creep me out and they're in the tracksuit.
Also, the way Ron Friends draws hands,
they are always vaguely Spidey thwipping.
They're claw-like. The fingers are really long.
Yeah, it's not his finest cover work in general. There's also something very sort of like Wendy Penny kind of ElfQuest about the eyes in a way that I find within his style, right? Very within his style. But this does feel sort of like the extreme of his style presented in the most extreme way.
Yeah.
And then we get inside and I hit a moment where I just say no. So Raptor is mad about Normie, but then we get that Jessica Simpson joke and I leave. That's it. I'm gone. Goodbye.
I do love...
Play the outro music.
I do love that she upgraded the Kitty Pride Classic from one man, Professor Xavier is a jerk, to all men are jerks.
All men are jerks. And one of the things that's so interesting about that is we get all of these distorted views of the characters in like a funhouse kind of way on these pages. And it makes me want to just like ask, is this meant to be representative of the exaggerated way they are behaving? Almost as if to say they are being kind of dramatic, but everything is a little distorted here. Because at this point, this is not the same fucking Spider-Girl we've been reading. This issue, 73, this is a new book. That last arc, you know, we'd said that perhaps 67 belonged in the previous trade, and then 68 through 72 kind of felt like a transition mini. Like, take a look at Books of Magic, which ran 75 issues, and then we got the Names of Magic, which transitioned into the Age of Magic, where he was much older. That 5-issue miniseries kind of moved the character into where they were going to be. 68 to 72 sort of did that for Mayday, and 73 is just an unrelated crime title all the way through 85.
Yeah, I think that's 100% the case. It's unfortunate that they didn't do something with that, because what a good point to have a year gap or something that gets May a little bit older, and then, you know, this resolution of the plot with Tarantula might not have been so creepy. There's so many options. I do love that we're seeing this tonal shift. I love that it proceeds at that same pace, but wasted opportunity.
Because the tonal shift really does make kind of a declarative statement about the new direction of the book. And like you said earlier, the direction of the book now is a crime book. Like, this goes from big heroics to pretty crimesy for 12 issues, which I like as a year of storytelling. That's a really cool way to reinvent the book. But maybe you should have done a 2-parter, gotten the book to 75, and relaunched with a new number 1. That maybe would have made this feel like what it needs to feel like. Because, like, Kane's hot now. As a guy who loves dominating daddies, Kane's pretty hot now. I want to pull him by his stupid long hair, right? If I was saying the other two look like Barrett and Cloud, he's got that fucking Aerith hair going on. So, like, I'm into it. But this really does feel like somebody said, it's 2005. They look good now.
I love how just Friends has decided to just ever so slightly tone down the facial cragginess. So yes, it technically is still there, but now you can observe him as a man with a whole ass face. And what an upgrade that is.
Yeah, because, I mean, really, he goes from kind of like looking like Ron Perlman in Sons of Anarchy to looking like Ron Perlman, like just like bathed in light. And it's a really big upgrade.
He deserves it. He's been a really good guy this whole time. He's been looking out for May.
He really has, because now the people looking out for May are Chesterfucker, and I don't trust him. He is a tricky little devil, and I had made a comment in my notes that I will take 1,000 issues of chess to not have to deal with one issue of Funny Face, so I did that to myself. But this is really where I'd kind of hope the title would be at like volume 7. Like, Spider-Girl, Crime Wave would have been a really cool 7th volume of this book, and then move the fuck right on.
Yeah. Again, tight arcs. Like, let us know that this is happening. Have her make some declarative statements of like, I know that I'm Spider-Girl and my villains are whatever, but I'm going undercover. I'm going into the criminal underworld. And then give us some story that we can know when it's going to begin and when it's going to end. I could definitely be into Spider-Girl in the criminal underworld for that. She's dipped a lot of toes in a lot of the time. I've really not enjoyed them, but I've slogged through them and the background work is there. So at this point, it's not like I think it's implausible. It's just I need some structure and predictability because there are still spider stories that I want told.
And one of those things that I love so much is this utilization of the spider shop in this sort of fanciful, silly, magical, weird way. It's charming, it's odd, but it gives us jokes like, they didn't have your size. Your size is the size. That is the best joke in all of Spider-Girl. Your size is the size. What a funny fucking way to think about it.
And it's just like the idea that there is a spider shop is completely bonkers, but totally plausible. And the fact that they keep going back, they mentioned it like a while ago. They were there one time, and now it has just slowly over time become this place where they almost hang out. They're like, we've been talking about going to the spider shop today. Why would you ever need to go more than once a year? No reason that I can ever dream of, but I buy it and I'm there for it and I want them going every day after school. They should open a cafe in the spider shop. That's where the kids should hang out.
And get jobs and shit. I completely agree. You want a spider soda?
Yeah.
Oh, you want a spider shake? You're a spider shake kind of guy? I get it.
I want the spider burger that is made from actual spiders.
Yes, please. I mean, no, but yes, please. And it's the magic of this book that then, oh my God, who's this old man? I'm not going to let up on this. He is the scariest old man. He is so old.
It's like the oddest choice. Why does he look like this?
So old, bro. I don't even know what to say. It is strange how old he looks. And not like in a, I'm just poking fun because I'm like silly and vaguely mean-spirited. No. Like, it is strange how old he looks to me, in part because one of the things that this forces us into is remembering that May would have been making new friends the way she's been making new super friends. Like, yes, Nancy Lou and JJ. And, oh wait, they both have powers. Name one other person that she has come in contact with that's new to her life that isn't powers related.
Right. And the first time we get somebody, it's this weird fucking character design. It's one of those moments where I don't understand how an editor was like, I get what you're going for here, but we need to find a way to age it down a little bit.
And are we supposed to trust him? Like, again, he is the first man she is making friends with that isn't some sort of directly, obviously super person. Are we meant to walk away from this being like, yes, there is absolutely no chance that he is going to attempt to eat her or sacrifice her to some sort of dark spider god? It automatically makes him seem super suspect, such that if he becomes anything but like the hobgoblin, I just don't know that I buy it.
Yeah, I fully see it.
And, I think that this book spends a lot of time finding ways to make things that shouldn't be charming really charming. And I'm going to put it all on the line. Okay, Claw. Okay. All right.
I mean,
your place. Okay. Don't tell anybody. Don't ever tell anybody. Maybe tell a few people. Okay. All right. Let's make out again. I kind of love you. I kind of love you a lot. I'm in love with you. Marry me. Okay. I love Claw and I love him.
Dynamite physique on this man. Like Dorito chip perfection. I even buy the long black hair. I mean, just, this is Felicia Hardy's other child, right?
It's gotta be, right?
This is Jean.
It's gotta be.
So for one thing, this is Jean, but also through issue 88, this has never come up again.
No. And he looks like warpath, but like a little bit like a cat, but a little bit like a bird. I love this guy. He's so fucking fabulous.
Yeah.
I would follow his not safe for work TikTok, and I would hope it would be one of those ones where like he jumps and suddenly he's naked.
Yep.
I am in love with him.
He is really gorgeous. He is everything that I think they thought they were giving us with Felicity, but was just weird and annoying because she was a 13-year-old girl. This appears to be like probably a 18 or 19-year-old man who is charming and doesn't ever whine. Oh, give me somebody who doesn't ever whine in this book and I will follow them till the ends of the earth, but especially also just enormous feet.
Yeah, everything about this guy, like I want to desperately cosplay him. Like
Yeah.
everything about this guy is my kind of character. He is so cocky. Like he has had one of the biggest impacts on me in 88 issues.
Yeah, he's a really stark character for this book.
He's her Black Cat, even if he's not Black Cat's son. The only thing that it winds up doing is the whole resolution is a little confused and a little muddled. I think Agent Whedon being a giant whiny incel Chad baby is super useful because we really needed an authority figure who fucking sucked, right? You know, the police chief or detective chief or chief detective.
Oh, Ruiz, Chief Ruiz. Yeah.
That, you know, Peter answers to, but she never really became that hardened motherfucker. They realized quickly there wasn't really enough room for J. Jonah Jameson, so he winds up backgrounded. We need a guy who sucks.
Yeah. And who hates May in ways that are incorrect, but he still has the power. Because the problem is when other characters in the past have been like, man, May, you're such a screw up. You let Angel Face and Funny Face get away, and then they did all that murder. They were like not wrong, but they also really couldn't do anything about it. So everything was on May, and it was just kind of like, God, why am I following this girl while she screws up? But with Agent Whedon, it's just like you are looking at probably the best asset you have, and you keep treating her like shit for no other reason that you didn't pick her for your team, and she's consistently showing you up while you should be doing better. So it gives us a chance at every moment to really root for May and to see her be right in ways that feel plausible to each story.
I really like your highlight of the reasons it's important as well, because I find myself so resentful of the fact that Mayday isn't on any of these badass teams. Like, all right, you know, I've made some things pretty obvious. I love the design of Big Man. I think he is one of the fucking like hotter giant size changing guys. I love the design on Kane. I think the reworking of him, he's got that trench coat look down without looking too embarrassingly. I'm Spike, but I'm also Captain Jack Harkness. You know, I think that there's also a lot to be said for the Warriors and their dynamic look, and the fact that she keeps not winding up on these teams, and then there's always really valid reasons to point to the fact that she's a fuck up is disappointing. So yeah, I like that Whedon hates her for all the wrong reasons. That really reminds me that she's not always just a fuck up.
Yeah, and it's a big part of that turning point that we've seen where now she's credible.
I love that. Credible is a really important way to describe her because, you know, we're about to enter a really weird period in the book where for all the ways that we're saying it gets crimesy, it gets really spidery. And I think, what's her name? Betratrix Jejune showing up at the end of this issue.
Oh God, Normie's 50-year-old wife.
The worst character ever.
She's truly terrible.
Until she becomes Fury the Goblin Queen, which makes her two unrelated X-Men villains by name. And she shows up at the end like this is some sort of Grey's Anatomy episode, and fucking Brenda is going to have to be like, pick me, choose me, fly me. And I don't know what to say to the fact that this book loves to introduce characters, not give them names, and then hope we'll care.
Yeah, a tertiary character's wife, tertiary character who we have not seen in forever and who the book has beaten into our heads is not going to be a romantic interest for our main character. What a choice.
And it just feels like an almost angry choice. Like, it feels perhaps like this decision was made to make a definitive statement that a million people are going to try and lay claim to Normie, that we should really get away from the idea that there is any room for May for Normie. And this run really does do a great job of convincing me that I wouldn't want Normie and May to be together. So, like, I don't know. This really is a massive turning point for the series. This issue had so many twists, surprises, yet, I don't know. I really just feel like 73 is a new number one. It's a mistake that it wasn't.
Yep, I think you're right about that.
Now, one of the things that throws me off right away about 74 that I felt like perhaps we were trying to go somewhere, but they were holding out hope for issue 75 being a big sales pickup or something. I don't know. But right away, when we start 74, we're in the middle of like an unrelated adventure. She's just saving a guy from a burning car. And I get that, but the book was starting to become really taut and fraught. And to start off on something that doesn't pick up on the thread of this random woman, it just feels like maybe that was a missed opportunity to keep this tension going in a way that the book didn't used to worry about, and it had been. So maybe one of my only missteps in this run we're looking at.
I felt the same way about that. And, it's not an uncommon thing for this book to do, to start out with Spider-Girl in the midst of doing just a low-level, I've got powers, I can help fix. It's always a fun moment because, of course, that's her day-to-day life, whatever, it's plausible. But there are really times where it should be set aside in favor of better serialized storytelling. This was probably a good example of that.
Because what we get next is something that I think, many of us probably felt was a long time coming. Kane and Dark Devil appearing in the same panels, having a conversation about each other and not just whatever fucking weird plot is going on in the background, reminded me that at one point, that was kind of like the main thing going on in this title. There really was a period in time where our biggest concern was what the fuck is a Dark Devil and why is Kane somehow connected to him?
Yep. And while we got some answers to that in the pages of Dark Devil, May did not get answers to that. So the idea that for her, these two are still having it out, even though we have some answers as readers, it still feels plausible and fresh when they're still going at it.
Especially because they say so many untrue things to one another that, like, I sometimes wonder if they've been reading the book, because it maybe feels like they haven't. I also think Spider-Girl being like, well, I bet I could take down Black Tarantula and this lady Doc Ock at the same time, having never succeeded at taking anyone down. Ever.
You gotta love the childish confidence. These are the two that I want to see, pairing up, teaming up to look at her and be like, it's not that you're a fuck up, it's that you're a 16-year-old.
Yeah, it's not that you're a fuck up, it's that you're not perfect, and something that does not get talked about enough is how people see Spider-Man, though we get that issue that I got legitimately choked up in that like daddy-daughter issue where everybody's like fawning over Spider-Man and like, oh, Spider-Man. Like, Peter deserves that. But I feel as though in a lot of ways they just say, oh, Spider-Man was a big deal. They don't say, here are the amazing things Spider-Man did, the truly sensational, spectacular adventures, his friendly neighborhoodisms, if you will. They rely on us caring about Spider-Man from real life. And May should be, as fucked up as this sounds, suffering for the comparison to her father, but I feel like she's not.
No, I think that's really true. And it makes that issue where everybody's geeking out over Spider-Man really weird, because we've seen a bunch of Spider-Man in this world and people don't react to him that way. I like the idea better that they do, and that there's even like, within their neighborhood or within the like broader area, there are things that are dedicated to Spider-Man, things that are irrevocably changed for the better because of Spider-Man. And when Spider-Girl shows up on the scene years later after Spider-Man has retired, there's a sort of sense of, oh, well, it's back now. Like, things will get even better for us. There's even more reason to hope. And then having May deal with the conflict of like not going as well for her all the time. She's not perfect. She doubts herself in ways that her father didn't. That would have been a really interesting way to have a conflict that a teenage girl could have without doing some of the other conflicts that we got that were technically plausible for a teenage girl but weren't really enjoyable. And I'm talking mostly about a lot of the high school stuff.
Yeah, and instead we get that same thing that we're talking about, wanting to see for May. We're getting it through Dark Devil speaking up for her, which I like, but then he walks it back later on, and it's just like, you fucking fireball. I hate your dumb face, your dumb demon face. It's so fucking hot. Stupid dumb demon fucking face. So, all right, I have to point it out. The reveal of Normie's wife being a prearranged marriage by his grandfather in another country that seems to mostly speak English with a weird accent is the most 1980s sort of Weekend at Bernie's 3, Bernie Gets Hitched lunacy I can possibly imagine. This is, and she's so sexual. She's like me, and I'm like, oh my God, that guy stood up a little straighter. That's size changing. I'm horny. Like this whole episode, I'm like that, and I'm like, she's too sexual, you guys.
I mean, it's not just the tit window. It's she's like kind of flirting with Foggy too. The idea that the Green Goblin did an arranged marriage for his grandchild, chef's kiss, absolutely perfect. That is the romance level of unhinged that the spider shop that they go to a lot is, wherein I both think it is the most absurd thing I've heard from this story, but also completely works. I totally believe it, and I'm 100% invested.
One of the things that we don't really deal with enough in this title is the menacing looming specter of Norman Osborn as a dead man. Norman Osborn dead is just as threatening as Norman Osborn is alive, because Norman Osborn dead is usually when all of the creepier things he did when he was alive comes out. So I feel like we should be more afraid of Norman Osborn than we are, because his presence when he's not around should be felt. You know whose presence wasn't felt when she wasn't around? Felicity. I kind of forgot about her, and it really broke my heart because she was left off in such a sensitive, delicate place.
Yeah, and she had a cool costume and everything, and as long as you didn't draw her with her butt up in the air, it was okay that she was a 13-year-old. One page where she seems real sad just wasn't enough. But also, this book is real full, so sometimes I'm willing to accept a character sacrifice or two.
However, that character sacrifice is, I'm going to blackmail you into playing basketball for my dad? What the fuck? Is he everybody's meth hookup? What is going on that everybody's like, May, go spend alone time with that old lesbian? What is happening?
Basketball's real important.
And look, I would give anything to not say this, but ladies and gentlemen, welcome back the dog mobster. Canis just looks like somebody took wearing a pup hood a little too far, so I hate looking at him. Number one, it's really uncanny valley. But number two, I just think he's weak. He's a weak villain. He's a weak character, and they work really hard to utilize how weak he is and expose it here. That's something I really like. But he is sort of this universe's the Owl compared to everyone else's the Kingpin. He just sucks.
Yep, I don't think there's a ton more to say. I'm not really clear on if the gray portion of his body is fur or if his hair is fur-like and then he has gray skin. I'm not really clear on how this came to be for him. Is there canine DNA in the mix? Because I don't want to know how it got there. He also just runs dog kennels. That could have been its own thing. There didn't have to be crime involved. I mean, it could have been dog-centric crime. It's very weird. I would almost say the more modern appearances of the Owl, he's been way more threatening than I could ever picture Canis being in any capacity. Even if you made him like a horrible man-wolf, wolf-dog person that ate people, I still think that he is in no way threatening. He's constantly like, kill May, but then he never himself can do it. He's just the weirdest character, and I say this as a real dog lover.
He reminds me of that dog-wolf dominant species people from the Chuck Austen run on X-Men.
Oh, yeah.
Where you're just like, oh, you're just dog people.
Sure, those can exist. Okay.
Do people talk like, man, can you believe that our friends on this basketball team used to have talent? Your attempts at success are hilarious. Do it more. What is happening? And Brad, just like, it doesn't matter the conversation. Somebody's like, oh man, I could really go for toast. And he's like, you know what I wish was toast? Mutant kind. Like, there's something so fucked about this guy.
He is his own one-man Friends of Humanity. It doesn't exist in this universe. He's starting it.
What a piece of shit Brad is. Like, we said, do something with him. I guess I should have been clearer. Not Mein Kampf. Like, this is weird. And that he's blue-eyed and blonde. Really, it makes it so much more uncomfortable that he is like, protect the dominance of the human species.
And I love that it's just like after that one issue where he goes to physically attack Nancy Lou, every other time we see him, it is just one page, 4 or 5 panels, and he just says the most hellacious shit. And then May is like, oh, I gotta get away from him, and never turns around and is like, I will punch you in the fucking face.
I feel like in another title, Brad would just come up to you and me and be like, hey guys, I heard that there's an opening at the chocolate factory if you guys need jobs for fudge packers. Like, it's that it's that level of he's not even good at it.
Yeah,
like,
no, 100%.
So, all right, speaking of not good at it, when Doc Lady Ock, by the way, who when Spider-Girl first met her, Spider-Girl was like, so were you his girlfriend or his mom or something? And she's like, I was his coworker, you misogynist asshole. Like, I'm a doctor. Like, I love the indignation, but she loses all respect from me and all right to indignation when she says, I do hope you'll try to resist. I could use the cardio. No. That dialogue is not okay. The dialogue's so not okay. That's gotta go. It's gotta
go. She's the horniest character in this book by a lot to everyone. The idea that she was offended by that is nonsense to me.
And I would love it because she's super inexplicably like she's like Canis. I don't know if she just like flirts with him or if they're like doing it, but like I would love to see like a furry octo dog. Like, I don't understand any decision she makes, anyone she aligns herself with. I just really wonder if she's got like the Waldo crazies, the way that like every Doc Ock goes a little mad from the suit. I think she just might have the Waldo crazies because she makes she makes Mayday bad level decisions.
I was thinking about the Dean in the episode of Community where he keeps allying with everybody to teach somebody else a lesson.
And then he looks at a picture of a realistic human dog and says, I hope this won't awaken anything in me.
That's her life. She just goes from person to person being real horny at them. Doesn't matter gender, sexuality. She's there. She's on you. She's calling you love, sweetheart, wrapping her weird bustier tentacles around you. And when she meets this dog man, it does in fact awaken something in her.
But I don't get why. And then later on, she's like, no, I'm going to feed him to people. Like, she is just no limits that bitch.
Yep.
And, one of the things that is frustrating is that Spider-Girl is incapable of taking Lady Ock down by herself. She so needs Black Tarantula's help that it does make me wonder who took Lady Ock down. Did Black Tarantula position Lady Ock to go down? Or did Spider-Girl play a good game? I feel like it is kind of splitting hairs, but it kind of matters to me when Spider-Girl's every victory is always somehow marred by bad decisions.
Yeah, and it just feels like a B-list Doc Ock should be one of those ones that like she hit around issue 15 or 16 and knocked it out of the park. And it was one of those moments where she was like, yeah, if Doc Ock is a horny 65-year-old lady, I'm fine.
Yeah. And so, I find that she's able to find Canis and Doc Ock in the sewer so quickly, really silly. I know that her being buried under the rubble is meant to elicit that, buried under the rubble breaks free Spider-Man sequence, but because we already had her do her version of it, we kind of didn't need her to break free here, so that it's Dark Devil is, I guess, fine, but I don't know. Him showing up just to neg her is my second least favorite thing about the end of the issue. Finding out that Elan is somehow like, she's working with Chesbro, so she's kind of working with the Black Tarantula, but then she's clearly got her own thing going.
I feel like it just is two foreign people in the same area being like, these Americans.
These silly Americans and all of their superheroes. Let's just keep doing things by an inexplicable code of honor that only exists when it's convenient.
And doesn't actually bear into any specific plot points that will be obvious when the story resolves itself.
Speaking of things that bore no fruit when they resolved, I'm kind of genuinely frustrated about the black costume. It means nothing.
Yeah, I love the idea that May found a black costume to wear just in and of itself. Just, she decided to go with black. That is fantastic. To hype it up in any kind of way when you know that any comics reader is going to see that and think a very specific thing. Again, just wasted opportunity. Because we were going to get get there anyway.
Part of, I think, what made it so jaded is that Venom was issue 5 and it went on her dad, not her. So, like, what even is Spider-Girl's Venom arc?
Yeah, a very fair question, because what we're about to get as a Venom arc also really isn't about Spider-Girl. We do see the return of Venom and some interaction, but the iconic black symbiote suit doesn't happen for May, and this suit that we're looking at here really has nothing to do with that. It's just unfortunate. You know, this going along with the makeover, her being like, I'm an entirely new person, I'm putting on an entirely new Spider-Girl outfit, that could have been really cool. Black could have been really cool for that. But this is issue 75, her in the black outfit. You know we're going to think something, and all you're giving us is a temporary costume change.
Speaking of costume changes, and you know you should be giving us a little bit more, I don't know what Tom DeFalco and co think of Elektra, because it's clearly so out of line with what I think of Elektra. I have no idea who this character is, that now she's just Wild Thing's mom, married to Wolverine, is currently just working for a mobster. Like, what? And then, you know, we do see Rena later on, so it's not like the idea that Rena is somehow connected to everything had escaped their minds altogether. What the hell is Elektra doing here working for a mobster?
I could even see, you know, give me 2 panels where she says, I hate you and I will take you down sometime, but because I know you've got something on Spider-Girl, I want to teach her so she can help me. Or something, right. You know what I mean? Something that makes me believe that Elektra isn't just like, oh, you got money? My husband, Wolverine, will definitely be cool if I come work for you.
Don't get me wrong, Elektra started working for the Kingpin as her entry point into, you know, Daredevil's universe and Marvel Comics, but that's not this Elektra.
Not at this point in her life, no.
So it's even weird that she's in her black costume instead of the white or red costume. It feels very asynchronous with maybe what I expected of her. And for there to be so much attention paid to what terrible condition Spider-Girl's costume is in the first few pages of the 22-page landmark 75th issue, you know, early on, we were like, oh my God, another 32-page fucking issue. Oh, this annual is 176 pages. Like, we were having some trade level issues with individual stories. And now I find that I'm like, why the fuck was issue 75 22 pages?
It's all about pacing, knowing which issues need to be longer, knowing which groups of issues should be contained arcs. That is one of the things that's consistently missing from this book that holds it back from achieving really great story moments at certain points. And I think this is one of them. I think even the idea that the 75th issue would be just 22 pages, I could accept if this were sort of the rotation point of a really big story. And issue 75 was, even if we didn't see her in the black outfit till like the last page or something, this could have been a moment. But this is really kind of just another issue. It's not even a bad one. There's some great moments in this one, but it is just another issue.
Yes, it is just another issue in a way that 73 didn't feel like just another issue.
Right.
So it's really baffling. Also baffling is, did they maybe think we wouldn't notice that their names are then April, May, and June?
Wait, which one's May?
May Day.
Oh, May.
Parker.
Oh, God. Oh, yeah.
So they're April, May, and June.
My thing was that April looks just like April O'Neil from Ninja Turtles.
Yep, with the freckles, yep.
Right, and I was like, that's a weird, like, naming that, but I didn't even think of, because I'm like, it's Spider-Girl. I feel stupid for that. That's really weird and way too cutesy, and then plus the April O'Neil thing, it just feels like a mishmash of jokes. I don't know, maybe they're just sitting there having fun. Sure, whatever. Got bigger fish to fry in this issue.
You mean bigger octopus to fry? Because, so I gotta be real, it kind of seems like she's throwing her calamari all over Canis.
Yeah.
And I don't get it. I mean, I love our read that she's just really horny. She's just that change of life horny that some women get, and good for her. She deserves it. She's worked hard. Wish she hadn't turned to a life of crime. But I really respect that after a long life of working hard in science, she's using her retirement to celebrate herself. It's just weird that she's celebrating herself with a guy who looks like he eats dinner out of a Kong.
I mean, at this point, I'm here for it. It makes no sense, but so little when it comes to the villains of this book does make sense. I love that she has two different bustier tentacle suits, one in green and one in gray. Never mind the fact that the rest of her outfit has gold accents, not gray metal accents. I just think she is living her best life, and I'm along for the ride no matter how little sense it makes to me.
Speaking of doesn't make any sense, I love that Canis is like, no, I'm Kingpin. Awoo! Why do you think you get to stay Kingpin, little dog man? Go back to your kennel.
Like, literally, you have a business. Go run your business.
Because you know what business I don't find interesting? This Kodiak guy.
This is really fucking offensive and weird.
Yeah, this feels like a Punisher move. Like, he speaks broken English. He just feels like one of the big Russians from a Garth Ennis run of Punisher. He doesn't feel like a character that belongs in this story. He is just so big and dumb. He doesn't offer anything. He's just big.
Yeah, and the fact that he is native coded just makes it go from this is just stupid and makes no sense to this is offensive and somebody should have known better.
And like, I don't know, handsome Richie Valentine doesn't add anything to this book. So breaking his face doesn't add anything to this book. And she had to put on the black costume to get dark, I guess. And her definition of darkness is working undercover to break up an illegal ring by working with the government to take them down from the inside. That's not darkness. That's undercover work. And like, this is where the crime narrative doesn't really work for the title. I still think this is in the better half of the series, but there's really things about the way I expected 75 to be a celebration the way 25 was, the way 50 was, the way a bunch of unspecial numbers have been, but this just feels like any 22-page issue of the title with a random one-off villain who doesn't make me feel celebrated for May's sake.
Yep, I think that pretty much sums it up. I guess the only saving grace is that we did have that really magical issue 73. From a numerology perspective, it's a little lame, but at least in this general area, we got something that really touches on the heart of MC2 and some characters that we love and reminds us of some stories that we enjoyed at the time.
Yeah. You know, and I had just made a comment about I felt like they threw away the taut tension that was built from one issue to another with the Elan reveal. And here, I just wish it was a moment I cared about more. I don't know that I really accept that Mary Jane would see somebody jump in a black Spider-Man suit and start screaming. You know, Venom has a very specific over-muscled look, and this doesn't look over-muscled. Even when it was just on Peter, he was bigger. And like, so it just seems like they're having her scream to have her scream. And then there is this sort of weird sense that she's like, I showed up in a black outfit. My mom wouldn't stop crying. The baby began screaming. My dad hobbled in on his leg. All of the food in the refrigerator spoiled. The food in the cupboard went bad and began covered in bugs. And she's like, everything spoiled the day I wore a black costume. What cost darkness? And I'm like, bitch, it's not that bad. You're basically wearing an Avril Lavigne tour t-shirt. Calm down.
Black is slimming. You're gonna be fine. This means nothing. No one cares.
But at least 76 has a really great cover.
Yes.
You know, the Canis Doc Ock relationship is really confusing and really unclear, and is only made worse this issue where they clearly don't get along.
I mean, after a couple rough nights together, that'll happen.
Also, Big Ben being a giant British guy is like legitimately a thing from Miracle Man. Like legitimately, like exactly. So it's a little odd here.
Yeah. And on top of that, we did not need another crime lord.
Yeah. And we get another Peter being like, you're acting so odd moment where it's not that Peter could possibly think she's acting odd. And the way that he presents that she's acting odd is such a specific interpretation of exactly what's happened. I feel kind of gaslit where like, I'm like, that's not what happened. I just read it. That's not what happened. It definitely does feel like 75 was sort of stumbled over. And from the fact that within 22 pages of her getting the black costume, she is already starting to pull away from Black Tarantula where people can tell. So she started working with him in issue 75, went real dark in 75. And by 76, she's already on her good guy redemption arc. That's not really giving her a chance to experience the wealth of the emotion of the story you're trying to create.
Yeah. I mean, you know, give us a flirtation with murder. Give us a letting a criminal go, and I don't give us something. And I really do agree that Peter sometimes looks at May and what's going on with her in this way that I'm like, you remember being Spider-Man, right? You have some perspective. He constantly is just like, why are you behaving oddly? You know why she's behaving oddly. She's Spider-Girl. You can come up with, you can think of whatever the reason is. Like, show us some awareness of the situation. It's just so disappointing to rocket back and forth between these moments where having been Spider-Man is the most significant thing and he can walk into a crowd and people will fall in love with him, and other times it means nothing. He basically has taken nothing away from it except crime bad, and he doesn't understand anything about his daughter's life.
I wonder how Pokemon would be a different franchise if instead of the anime being its own thing, which kind of follows that there was an earlier manga which was its own thing, and if it instead had followed Ash having a starter from each region, and each time it restarted, he got a new starter. And instead we have Pikachu, who represents this unbreakable bond with Ash, and Ash has other Pokemon that he uses as well. But at the end of the day, Pikachu and Ash are the most significant relationship they will have in fiction. It's with each other. It's not romantic, but it is a life partnership. And one of the things this story seems to forget is that the most significant life partnership in Peter's life is Spider-Man. I love that Mary Jane and Peter have an excellent marriage, but the biggest thing that Peter Parker ever did was not marry Mary Jane. It was become Spider-Man. And trying to play up elements that seem like they are the conventional, relatable elements of a human life in order to make Spider-Man accessible, sometimes without realizing it, creates a really shallow psychology for a character that should know better.
Yeah, and I think shallow psychology is really the thing that is disappointing about seeing Peter like this, because you're right, this most significant thing he's ever done is become Spider-Man, and that should be okay. That's an amazing thing to do. Anybody can get married. Doesn't mean it's not special. Doesn't mean you don't love your family and your wife. And that's something really interesting to mind. The idea that you would say, I did this amazing thing, but I can't anymore. This is my life now, and here's what I can do. Here's how I can help. Here's how I can impart wisdom. These are all perfectly believable character beats for Peter Parker. We're just getting inept dad who kind of barely remembers this enormous thing that happened in his life.
Speaking of enormous things that happen that we need to be talking about, that we should completely reset everything about this book to focus on, Moose and Courtney are fighting.
This is a real problem, you guys.
It's devastating. The Sandra stuff is creepy. The Moose and Courtney stuff is so out of nowhere. It feels like it's going to go nowhere. I would think it's the worst thing in the book. And then we see the combined costume mask look for a few pages, and it feels like a snork on a Smurf's body or something, or like looking at a picture of Carrot Top shirtless. It just feels like those two things shouldn't go together, and I hate it.
I am obsessed with hating it.
Good, because it haunts my dreams.
I have to believe that everybody was like, this is terrible, print it. Like, I can't imagine anybody was like, this is okay, right? And everybody was like, yeah, it's totally okay. Like, it's a little unconventional, but it's okay. I have to believe that every single person who created this and looked at it and let it go to print said, that is awful in a way that I mean for it to be awful.
Because you know what I think was not awful in the way they meant for it to be awful? Kane being like, yes, I've stared at your fucking face so fucking much. I know that you're wearing your dad's mask. I used to stare at his face a lot too. Let me stare at your face some more. Come here, little girl. Like, oh my God, he's going to be the next one on To Catch a Fucking Predator. And Chris Hansen is going to be like, I just caught Flash Thompson. You're next, buddy. And like, everyone has to stop staring at her like she's a fucking piece of meat.
And again, there's a thing here where it could work. We still have never had anybody say on page who Kane is and what his relationship to Peter Parker and to May is. If we had that information and we were mining that for its significance, he could potentially say the spirit of things like this and have it be like a very, I can never have what Peter has. I am a completely broken, isolated person, and I look at you and I see the daughter that I will never have. And to say like, I observe you in that way is not creepy. It's complicated and dark and sad and whatever. But the way way this stuff comes off with this character that you have to know so much for it to mean something, and even still you are kind of having to work the dialogue in your own head, it really does just come off as creepy, and there simply is no need for it because we are at a point now where we could have explained this very clearly.
You mean the way they very clearly and very quickly explain that Elan DeJunae is bad news? Like, that's the kind of thing we've been waiting for from this book. You can have a mystery build over time, but you can't have a stupid mystery build over time. Obviously, this woman is going to be all sorts of tries to eat Mayday alive. I mean, literally takes Mayday by the hand and starts chewing off her fingers. And like, you can tell that from her first appearance. So getting Kane being like, oh, obviously, bad news, really did speed the story along in a way that it worked for me.
We could have, had we, as we discussed, used the page space in the previous issue to sort of continue the introduction of her and just giving little hints of like, this is a sinister person early on, would have probably expedited what ends up being an extended process that is, again, that sort of signature DeFalco, bet you don't know where this is going, finger guns. Yeah, we always know where it's going. And if we don't know exactly where it's going, the fact that there's something going on is always pretty clear.
I like so much of what's been going on. Something that I found really rewarding was when Mayday was concerned that it was possible that June had died, it really impacted her in a way that I found important. You know, it's so frustrating when these significant characters, you know, survive these major experiences and then we just sort of hand wave it. Oh, but they survived, everything's fine. It shouldn't be that basic. So I did like the idea that May would be changed by an experience like this, and we do see elements of it carry over. There was just something very fulfilling about her caring about June, even though June's on the wrong side of things.
Yeah, I love the idea that May cares about April and God damn it, saying it's just so bad. May cares about April and June because they formed this bond working together, and these women support her, and she feels it very seriously when one of them is injured. That is a type of complexity to me that feels possible, because of course they're working for Chesbro and by extension Black Tarantula, so their money is not coming from a good place, and we don't really know their morals, but we know that they have been supporting May and they've been good to her in this moment, and that's really all that matters to her. So when one of them is in jeopardy, the fact that it scares her, it hurts her, it makes sense, and it shows us growth for the character. And I think for the storytelling in the book overall, I feel like we did see a lot more hand waving before, a solid brush with death that isn't, you know, that dark turning point is good to see. You know, May needs to have those experiences of like, that could have gone a lot worse. I think we do need to sort of have her really confront something darker, and that was a missed opportunity in 75. But here, this is a correct story beat for where we are.
You know what's not a correct story beat for where we are, though? Fine, I will tell you the name of all of my lieutenants. Oh, okay, thank you.
Yeah.
Why did this take so long?
And what was the point of this? And the sexy from behind spoon grab that she does. God, I live for her.
She is pretty fucking hot, isn't she? Orcus could learn a thing or two from Lady Ock. I don't want to learn anything about Courtney Duran. I hate that this is here, specifically because I don't think that these are done with quite the gusto they need to be done with. And the things on the page are sort of insultingly trivial. They are things like current boyfriend, favorite movie, author, entertainer, favorite superhero, hobbies, first meeting, best features, shortcomings. Like, I don't know if this is supposed to be an Ohatmu or a slam book, but this might just be May writing down things she doesn't like, and also when she is hungry, she is mean to people. Like, I don't understand what this is supposed to be, but one thing that I definitely know that it is not is informative in any way about Courtney Duran.
Nope, this isn't going to make me care about her. You can make those weird orthopedic shoes as chunky as you want. I'm still not going to love this girl. I don't care about her issues. Had they made this like the Strife Strike Files or something, I don't know, it could have worked, but this really is is in case you had completely forgotten what the deal is with her high school friends, because we never focus on them. We do not give them any page time, and they're completely divorced from her real life, which is her life as Spider-Girl. Here is some information about them. The fact that this was thought to be printed at all should have been not the first red flag, but the final red flag in saying, like, we got to get this girl out of high school. It's not doing her any favors.
No, because the age factor makes the cover to number 77 so complicated because, I mean, yeah, there's definitely some waist pivot issues. There's some, it doesn't make any sense design to it, but yo, that ass is why I'm pansexual. Like, that ass. It's clearly the ass of like a 24-year-old, not a child. And drawing her so sexually when she's 16 years old, it's just a mistake. This is clearly just an image of her when she's much older. There is no way this cover then, because the other thing, these covers are stunning and they're by the team that does the book. So when I open up and get to that first page, I'm baffled.
Yep.
The art isn't great. I do like seeing her changed by having survived the experience with June, but then we get stuff like Mr. DeWells, and I'm like, what the fuck is Lady Ock doing? I just don't understand this narrative, but she makes T seem really horny, and I don't know what to do with this. Like, Canis, I'm glad that he's here to get shit on, because that's what I want from him.
Yeah, you know, she got the names of his lieutenants, and she immediately got on Bumble and found somebody else to go on a date with.
And, you know, once again, we get that sort of May with her ass over her head look where she's training with Elektra, who's now in some sort of gunmetal variant, which I love very much. Good for her. It just stands out as clearly not black because we see the black suit and we see fucking big fucking daddy black tarantula in the black suit. So we get so much black suit that this is, though, where my problems with Elektra being in this story become too hard to avoid. She cannot possibly be working for this crime syndicate and be married to Wolverine, and having her here as this Elektra should highlight that she shouldn't be here.
Or just give us a good reason. Make it like April and June. Like, there's something going on here that makes this whole thing more complicated, and then I'll buy it. But you can't just be like, oh, Elektra, she question mark, is she evil? Who knows? If she's married to Wolverine, she's definitely not fucking evil, because Wolverine's not gonna. Anyway, it makes no sense. I do love the idea of May training with Elektra, though. Like, I want this to make sense. I'm rooting for this concept, but you gotta give us something.
Because we do get so many confused things in other places where the confusion kind of makes sense. When Sandra both says, I'm in over my head and I know what I'm doing on the same page, that's just a teenage girl trying to navigate a much more complicated situation than any adult should possibly. Oh my God, who is this old man?
His hair is gray.
Like, he literally looks like the human version of Mrs. Potts from the end of Beauty and the Beast. Off to the cupboard with you now, Chip. It's past your bedtime. Good night, love. Like, he is a kindly old lesbian librarian who does horticulture on the side and wants you to have, number one, this amazing Joyce Carol Oates book, and number two, have some tomatoes fresh from his garden. Like, this is not a teenage boy who is trying to hit on May Day.
Also, the fact that his name is Chris Jarker.
Yeah.
I mean, I know there's an O in there, but I don't know how you would say it. So it just sounds like they were doing weird rhyming games in the writer's room. And they were like, May Parker and Chris Jarker. I don't understand what's happening here.
Do my thing, Martha Farker. Seeing May with Kane and Dark Devil is kind of nice because I had felt like no one liked her for a little bit. Like, it felt uncool to like May Parker for a little while, or at least Spider-Girl, because no one liked her, not anybody in the book, not the buying audience. So seeing people want to work with her and then be like, yeah, no, we're in this with you. We're not going to let you go to jail. Like, I had been really afraid that somebody was going to pin this whole thing on her. So that's not where this goes is kind of a relief.
I do love it. I like that these two especially are pretty solidly on her side and see a ton of potential in her, even when they also see the ways that she can make mistakes. I wish she was making more headway with her peers like the Buzz and Raptor and Phil, but that it's these two specifically. I like, again, if we would just come out and explain the Clone Saga, because you're already putting so much of it in here. The fact that this is essentially family to her, horror would be a really cool avenue of exploration for this team up of 3.
I agree very much. I think something that's confusing me, number one, is Cain is so much hotter and younger than Chris. Number two, I'm also fascinated by that image of handsome Richie on page 12 of the digital, followed by that image of Canis on page 13 of the digital. It's the same fucking guy. Like, these are just not characters who have particularly definitive faces outside of one is handsome and one is hairy. So it feels a little bit like this is where we're starting to have crime character overload. And I would probably rather spend more time with characters like Dark Devil and Cain than try to have room for so many crime characters. Like when Doc Ock is like, yeah, no, Canis can die, I'm fine with that. I'm like, oh, okay. But like, there's so many disposable characters at this point. I kind of need someone to die just to clean up the book a little bit.
Yeah, and I don't know that that is the place that you ever want to put your reading audience in. I don't really know that I can recount the plot of this other than crime shenanigans. We'll see how it all shakes out. Like, I really don't know what the individual beats are of what each individual person is planning, who's betraying who's on whose side. It's just criminal underworld shenanigans. The only thing I want to believe is that, I'm having May's experience of just completely not getting this stuff that's way too adult for me.
Yeah. Oh, for sure. Because when Dark Devil was like, avoid Cain, I guess, I was like, why isn't he on your side? I forgot that he's leading the government team that's trying to apprehend everybody. There's too much. Too much. And there's still going to be the new warriors showing up shortly. I just find myself at odds with how many characters there are. And fucking Christ, the amazing goes to fucking Moose. I don't even. Did Moose need an amazing friend? By the way, Moose has double the write-up that Courtney has, which is insane because Courtney's meant to be the intellectual with a lot of feelings and does a lot of thinking and is one of May's closest friends. And Moose is meant to be the big dumb jock that beat up on her friends in the beginning. So how Moose winds up with double the write-up of Courtney is a little bit indicative of this book's alternate priorities. But beyond that, I am starting to find things about the way Ron Friends is settling into his pencil work exaggerative. So we get all of those hyper muscles on the Buzz, works for me. All of the giant muscular guys are just so exaggerated, works for me. And then Moose is sort of a mean caricature of an overweight teenager.
But I have figured out what works about his and Courtney's relationship for the two of them, and it is that they are able to share shoes. Yeah,
they have the same pair of shoes. Yep.
Love that for them. If you can share clothes, it really makes things go a lot smoother. But yeah, Moose is always got a little extra chonk on him, but he's a really jacked guy. And with the cartooniness of Ron Friends, I feel like it's a little tough to pull off in the first place, but it does feel like it has now gone into a shorthand where he is just fat in the face and in nebulous clothes.
Yeah. One of the things that you even do see that sometimes with Spider-Girl, especially on the cover of 78, I find her body very hard to make out in this. And thank God that's been one of our big comments. We wish everybody found her body hard to make out in this book, but there's something really hard to visualize about this cover for me. It just it's all over the place, which good, because the next couple of pages are Black Tarantula kind of being I want to make you my love Muppet and mount and mate you. And so I am kind of glad that the cover kind of has her being I'm one of the Tetley Tea elves and I have no shape. But, inside, Doc Ock is just kind of wildly flailing, and Black Tarantula is kind of wildly flailing. And then he's just sort of I'm wildly flailing because despite the amount of roids, my nards still work enough where I want you, underage girl. We are destiny. And then the Kane crew shows up and I'm kind of relieved. I shouldn't be relieved. But okay, the manufactured bad blood between Kane and Black Tarantula, you can't just transfer what he had with Kingpin onto Black Tarantula. That's not going to work.
Yeah, I mean, I agree. It just feels like Kane really hates crime. You better know.
Oh, good. I hadn't expected a superhero to really hate crime. And then Canis goes down too easy. Phil doesn't talk. Phil's in a lot of pages and doesn't speak once.
Listen, you say thank you for that, and you don't mention it again.
I do have that in my notes, actually, that Phil gets so shortchanged that when he does matter again at some points, it's sort of oh, right, him.
Him?
As plain as the goblin on Egg's mask. So So, okay. Speaking of goblins, obviously, I think we're meant to think Elan is sexy and we're meant to think Lady Octopus is old.
Flip those.
We got to flip those because once Elan becomes Fury the Goblin Queen and just starts looking like somebody I would never root for on a cooking-based reality show, I don't know. Her flip to she's evil, but it's just sort of like, are you sure she was ever able to pretend that she could fit into proper society? Look at the headpiece.
Yeah, how, what?
I also thought that Doc Ock had killed Raptor and that was going to set Normie on a dark path. So when she was fine, I was like, oh, who even cares? But the whole, I'm going to blindfold myself so that I fight you, not thinking about your tentacles. I get that was seeded with Elektra, but if you're trying to tell me that Elektra can train anybody to fight anybody, it was maybe a lesson that should have been a little further away from the payoff.
Yeah, or again, set it up May tells her specifically, I need to know how to fight in a way that can confuse a computer and then give us something. Yeah, just the idea that she puts on a blindfold that will only make her have to be more intentional about her actions because she can't see, and that somehow would confuse the tentacle. It just doesn't make any sense.
But you know what's pretty exactly what you might think she's gonna do? She fucking breaks the harness, the bodysuit. She takes away the source of Doc Ock's sexuality and power, her bustier, and she lays her low. Seeing as Doc Ock gets her powers from a suit, she could just build new tentacles. She can come back with 10 this time. Doc, because it's Deck for 10. So Doc. And I don't know, it just feels like one of the only times May has actually broken an enemy. Most of the time she just lets them go. But even though it feels like Lady Ock could always come back at any moment, this felt like a definitive move on the part of Mayday to say, I'm going to stop crime. I thought it was kind of cool.
Yep, I like this. Again, I think this is something that could have happened a lot earlier and just been one of those definitive wins. Even if the character comes back because they build it again, that's okay. That's something that happens to all superheroes. But the idea that, yes, she would take a tangible step in this moment to shut it down is something I want to see from May more regularly.
All right, let's just do it. Let's just talk about this Rule 34 bullshit. The cover to number 79 is the most unappetizing but overly sexual thing I have ever seen. I'm not sure I sex anymore after this cover, but I know it's meant to be sexual, but I think it's so sexual it goes all the way around and rebounds to never sex again.
The only reason why I love it so much is because it's not May. It's this weird goblin. Finally, somebody else is getting this well, this seems really ill-advised and inappropriate, but then also it's ill-advised and inappropriate.
The size of the ears, the weird tendril thing coming out of the back of her head, the way there's just a giant goblin pointing down on her crotch. Nothing about it is okay.
Nope, not a single thing.
That art moment that I find truly troubling is the cross-eyed May moment.
Yep.
Fury having Normie tied up is par for the course, but trying to highlight the sort of juxtaposition of what's going on in their lives, it doesn't land the way I think we're supposed to think it lands. And instead of making a point about the contrast of their lives in this moment, it makes the book seem facile.
Yeah, having a little sibling that's 16 years younger than you is a weird, unique experience. Being parents with children that are two drastically different ages, weird, unique experience. Tie that all in with the fact that one of the parents is Spider-Man. There's stuff here. Do something with it. Don't just give us these weird kiddie moments of May being cutesy because it's a kid's book. Because at this point, it really isn't anymore. It's just the book of the people that are still on the ride.
Yeah, this issue puts us firmly in December of 2004, considering we started this shebang in February of 1998. That's a really stark amount of time, and it feels like good. Spider-Girl is finally growing up. I feel like this is something I've waited for a really long time. This is, the high school stuff is still a little, I'm really jamming on your dress, Willow, but I like the whole, I don't want a D+. I don't know. There's stuff about it that, oh my God, who is this old man?
He's back.
I'm going to do it every
time. You should. He's the worst. Also, Ron Friends, don't ever draw Courtney like page 6, panel 4 ever again. Actually, page 6, period, altogether. This is mean.
Not that Ron Friends can't draw. We see some incredible art that we can't stop praising. The musculature, the panel balance, the pacing, the placement. This guy can fucking draw. It's just sometimes he leans so far into his exaggerated sense of caricature in the way that a lot of the greats do. JR does it. Steve Dillon did it. We're talking about industry legends. So it's not saying that Ron Friends falls back on some easy skill set. It's that when you're applying these to teenagers, you really need to think about what you're drawing.
Yeah, and it goes all the way. I mean, like, Elan, a lot of times, even in her human form, with the way that he does the lips and cheekbones, it comes off as age lines and wrinkles in a way that ages her drastically. And you see JR do a similar style of thing, but compensate in ways where you get characters that have a not dissimilar kind of facial marking from the art, but you get the age that they're supposed to be. Something happens here, particularly with the teens, where it just misses what I think the intention is. And these two characters, Chris and Courtney, really suffer from it.
Because part of the bigger issue at hand is that we're only getting little glimpses into the very human side of these lives. So one of the things that the title needs to do for us is create a vast depth for each of these characters in a way that we care about. That's a lot of heavy lifting for 2 panels an issue, sometimes for 8 months. There's times we don't see the regular human side of May's character life for 8 issues, 9 issues at a time. It means every time they appear, the economy of panel has to be so extreme, it creates sort of an unfair unbalance of responsibility.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think with the art, what it means is that you just start to look at somebody like Courtney as this kind of frumpy Muppet person.
I'm not kidding. The words in my head were frumpy Muppet. Like literally, frumpy Muppet. And we continue to move from frumpy Muppet to frumpy Muppet, where Agent Whedon's disapproval of May is tangibly palpable, such that when Kane is like, I said she did the whole thing, you can taste the satisfaction and dissatisfaction on everybody. It's like an acridity to the air. They do such a great job creating a reasonable sort of bureaucracy man to stand in Mayday's way that I'm really amused by it, all said and done.
Yeah, I mean, I love it. He is being told that he is flat out wrong, and he refuses to acknowledge it or step up or give any leeway on this girl. And because we can see that, all it does is just make us root for May more. And that's always something that we need because she does fuck up a lot.
So this issue sort of ends with 2 very different kind of fuck ups. Well, one fuck up and one, oh, fucked. I think having Raptor attack early because she can't control herself in terms of being like, no, I have to save him. I have to say I love him. Yeah, okay. That's the kind of rushing into things that I don't mind seeing from a hero. I really get why she would do it, why she would feel compelled. Normie going in the vat starts Normie on such a fucking dark, like, I'm not sure how Normie can come back from some of the stuff he does in the next arc. Like, I'm fascinated.
Yeah, I am too, because I really at first thought we were going to get another like, oh, I bet you think this is going one way, it's actually going the other. But no, it seems like we've just kind of gotten sick of good guy Normie, and we now need to take things in a different direction.
And, one of the things about the ending that we're dealing with is it's not that she defeated Black Tarantula. He turned himself in out of sureness that it would woo her and win her favor. And now we have Normie, who is just like, yeah, I fell in the vat. I'm fine. Don't worry about me. I'm just inexplicably strong and crazy now. Shh, it's okay.
I borrowed Courtney's shoes, so I'm all set.
Oh my God, right? It's just like Chunky Sketcher Town. So there's something so weirdly balanced and yet unbalanced about the way this all goes down. I never actually feel like Normie has any agency in this, which is a weird unbalance that creates balance for me.
Yeah, Normie isn't somebody who should have balance.
Yeah. And if I'm gonna have a character feel really shortchanged, let it be a male character in the female character's book, as opposed to what it always is, which is Gwen Stacy getting her neck snapped, or Mary Jane getting her memories erased, or any number of other horrible things they do to women in these books instead of men.
And it's also nice nice because at this point, May doesn't really love Normie. Like, even though she's like, I still don't really know if I have a crush on him, it's kind of like something that she says in the back of her head. She's not like, I have to rescue the love of my life, Norman Osborn. This is just a dude that she's kind of friends with, that she's known since she was a kid. He helps her fight crime. She cares about him for sure, and she's going to help him. But this is not the defining moment that she has to save this person. And it's one of those things that we need to see from May. We need characters that are not all life and death for her. And we need male characters, especially, that feel a little bit disposable.
All said and done, I say this falls pretty in line with the previous arc. There was stuff I liked more about, I think, every issue than I liked about almost every issue in the last arc, with the exception of, 71, which I thought was just such a golden spot. On the whole, I think this just earns a general B. It's got all the beats that I want. I'm fascinated by where a lot of it's going, and the growing pains feel like May's growing pains, not the titles, for a change.
Yeah, I think that's spot on. I give this a B. Really, a lot of my problems are the things that they've always been, which are that I'm still finding it tough to care about the high school stuff. The art is difficult for some characters, as we've discussed, and really great for others. Black Tarantula under Ron Frenz is really just winning the game in this book. But all in all, I'm really happy to see an older, more mature May. I wish we were getting some like concrete version of that aging and maturity, rather than just like, it's really only been 2 weeks since issue 60 or whatever. I wish we were seeing her get a little bit older, but I am happy that we're seeing her mature in terms of how she goes about all of this.
The best laid plans of dog mobsters and spider people. You don't realize just how much you have to say about some of these stories until you are 3 hours into a recording that's likely to get edited down to 2 hours and 15 minutes. And you say to yourself, how in the fuck am I going to find time to talk about 80 to 85? You talk with your partner and you say, TK, I don't think we got time for these. And he says,
you goddamn right we don't.
So here's what we're doing instead. We're going to reshuffle things just a little bit and reasonably add an episode, because, realizing how much we have to say about so many of these issues, it might make sense as the series gets a little bit further into its maturity and there's more ongoing stories to deal with, that we could need a little bit more time each segment. So we're going to rework things a little bit, but instead of signing off with no closure on the material we're talking about, we're going to take a look at the Spider-Girl appearance in Spider-Man Family. Now, these family books were just like the most egregious motherfuckers. They were like some usually 100 pages long, and they were, between $4.99 and like $8.99, and packed to the brim with usually reprints and oftentimes a single strong binding thread. And here that binding thread is none other than Mayday Parker, in a story, of course, brought to us by Tom DeFalco and Ron Lim, with Norm Rapund on inks, Avalon Studios' Rob Rowe on colors, who will be the regular colorist on Last Hero Standing, Dave Sharp on letters, and Molly Laser on editing, with special thanks to Shannon Monahan. Whew, okay, that was a lot up front. And now here's another fucking Spider-Girl. It's Arana. What the fuck?
I guess the thing that was most confusing about this to me was Arana is a 616 character, yeah?
Yes.
So ostensibly, this is one of those moments in which, because it is happening in Peter Parker's past, we are to believe that Arana could be somebody that we will see in Earth 928, Mayday Parker's present as an older person.
Yeah, because it's one of those things where you totally get what they're trying to say or do. They're trying to say, oh, look, this person came out in the time since Spider-Girl began. So here's how, from this vantage point, she might, matter in a clear way. And I just find myself maybe a little bit unsure of why exactly this story, I guess. It's not that I don't want to see Arana. I'm a big Arana fan from, her short but really great fun run that she did. It's just this feels very like they're trying to get something in under the wire.
Yeah, and it just feels ill-advised at this point to cross the timelines in this way way that says, reader, your present Spider-Man will be Earth 982's present Spider-Man, and not in any way attempt to reconcile what would be different about the literal time. Like, May is existing in sometime generic late 90s, early 2000s, but that also is exactly what it looks like for Arana too. So it makes no sense.
Yeah, because, not that it's the end of the world, but it kind of feels like Arana doesn't age at all through the two stories. Like, she doesn't look at all older.
Yeah.
Now, we did get a few other things in this story. Number one, I want to just make a note of Courtney and Davida showing up. So this has to actually fall a little bit outside of where it wound up running. Now, this issue, while has a very similar title to like 15,000 other Spider titles, this particular run of Spider-Man Family came out October of 2005. That puts this somewhere around issue 88. It does go after Mayday has made up with Davida. She and Courtney come up to Mayday and they talk about Spider-Ham.
This is really sweet and adorable. Like, this is something I can kind of work with in terms of whatever nonsense is there, timelines, whatever. When it's something like this, it really doesn't need to matter. Even like the flashback to the Daily Bugle, it's all totally cute and in good fun. It is when we get into the flashback with Arana where I start to get just a little confused as to what the real takeaways are here.
I think one of the things that was often thought at this time was any story that puts these characters together has value. And showing Peter team up with Arana is cute. And, having Miguel there is also great. That they fight a bunch of spider robots. All right. And then it's Jack-o'-lantern. Okay. And for Mayday to come to the future, or Mayday to be in the present, her present in the future. It's so hard to talk about. For Mayday, active Mayday in Mayday time to be like, I'm going to go investigate this Heartland Entertainment. And it turns out it's Jack-o'-lantern who's really just Arana testing her. That bothers me because it does actually seem kind of like high stakes, do or die. She might not survive. So for Arana to just be like, oh no, it's cool. I was just testing her. And I do love the Miguel joke of I'm not a sidekick. I don't know. Something just doesn't land in all of this for me.
Yeah, I think I really would have liked to have seen the character designs be a lot different on the two of them. I feel like maybe what is just what looks like some interesting lighting on Miguel's hair is maybe meant to be gray hair that ages him. I can see Arana is obviously in a different outfit, but she does not look like she has aged as much as Peter Parker has aged, becoming, the father of Mayday. So it's just all very confusing. And again, the fact that their past is really the then present of Earth 616 is also kind of confusing because we've really dropped the slightly futuristic aspect of May's present that was more part of the early runs of Spider-Girl. It's very jumbled, and I definitely get the idea of like, there's value just to putting Spider characters together, but if you're not a Spider-Man fan, there's maybe less value.
And that is what I kind of wound up with here. This definitely didn't feel like a story for Spider-Girl fans. This felt like a story for people who buy Spider-Family titles, which is actually great because that means that they're trying to convert people into Mayday fans with these sorts of stories. The only thing is, I'm not sure who this story was for. It maybe just feels like for people who like both Arana and Mayday, there was something here, but I'm not sure that it really offered enough that for this to be the only sort of like out of regular run MC2 story up through this point is kind of wild.
I also think it's really funny that it's Spider-Man Family and Mayday is actually literally his family, whereas everybody else is just another person with a spider theme.
Or every now and then a clone.
Right.
For what this story is, I don't think it's fair to grade it. Like, that might sound silly and
No,
protective.
I think that's totally true.
Because if I had to give it a grade, it would get like a D.
Right.
It's not really original. There's nothing to it. It's pretty forgettable. The punchline is awkward and uncomfortable. But no, it's Mayday got a fucking solo story with Arana. It gets an A. Fuck you.
Sure. And, were things to spin off from this, I would be really happy to see it. It's something that we talk about a lot. I wish May were getting pulled out of Earth 982 more and used in other things. Doesn't all need to be canonical. She doesn't need to be eventually getting an MCU film. film, but she is a character that, from my perspective, her backstory is growing and growing, and she's getting older and more complicated. And increasingly, I'm wanting to see other people get excited about using her or seeing her in other stories. And that's something that, in the present, I'm still going to be thinking about when we look at stories like Judgment Day. Is there any way to bring Mayday into it? I have no idea, but I would love to see it.
And, it's with that sort of excitement for the future that I look so forward to our next episode, where we talk about Spider-Girl number 80 through 85 as originally promised for this episode, as well as issues 86 through 88, plus the official handbook of the Marvel Universe, the Ohatmu entry from the alternate universes issue from right around this time about MC2, and then the first major crossover of the MC2 universe, Last Hero Standing. And I'm just so excited. This is like a really interesting point. I feel like it's like a tipping pivot, and we're about to get somewhere that we've been dying to get to this whole time.
Yeah, absolutely. I'm really excited about Last Hero Standing. I'm excited to have wrapped up this concentration of pure Spider-Girl. Not that I didn't enjoy all of it, just I love the MC2 as a line, as a concept, as a universe all its own. And I'm excited to return to adding new books that give us that feeling of the other dimensions of this universe.
And just to back you up on that, it is just Spider-Girl from our vantage point from issue 28 to issue 88.
Yeah, it's been a while.
So I too cannot wait. And until we return to continue looking at the incredible pages of the MC2 universe, TK, where can everybody find you online?
You can find me on Twitter and Instagram at xnatexgrayx.
You guys can find me all over this crazy show on X's for Podcast, but also don't forget to check me out over on the Billy Club, where I, alongside Tori Sheehan, take a look at Daredevil story by story starting in the 1960s. You can also find my original work in the recently published Young Men in Love anthology. Super proud of being included in that with such incredible creators as Joe Glass, Sina Grace, Terry Bloss, Anthony Oliveira, and more. Don't forget to check out the show every Monday, Wednesday, and Friday. Mondays being the MC2, Wednesdays with Modern Marvels, and Fridays seeing a mix of premiere interviews and chrono-skimming classic X-Men stories. Don't forget you can find me on Twitter and Instagram at Nico Action. That's NicoAction. And until next time, remember, keep it MC2, be the last hero standing, Spider-Girl your way through high school. Obviously, keep it loose and slam heat.
Flip, motherfucker.